Hello everybody, this is the Retro Bear once again speaking to you from the confines of the Rescue Centre on the Desert Island for another exciting instalment of Desert Island Games, episode number 26, the penultimate one of 2021. And it's a great pleasure to be speaking to you once again. Thank you very much indeed for tuning in. If you are new to the format, this is where I ask a YouTuber to come on and be grilled for probably about 3 hours or so about their gaming history. Along the way, we ask them to bring 8 games with them, 6 games which we'd like them to keep on the desert island as their favourites, games that they may pick specifically for a desert island, or they may pick specifically because they're their favourite games. And on top of those 6 games, the other 2 games, we ask them to bring a second chance game, something they may want to play again, they didn't get very far with, they got to a certain point with, but where a desert island is a perfect example to be able to play this game to its full capacity. And the last game of that little bundle, one that I absolutely hate because, yeah, well, being on a desert island, it's not all paradise. There should be some misery there involved until somebody comes along and decides to rescue them. And we try and cram that into 3 hours. Along the way, we disperse that with gaming history, tangents, conversations, chat, stories, etc. If you're familiar to the format, you'll know exactly what we're talking about. Before we start, don't forget other episodes are available on the channel, all 25 previous ones. If you're interested in becoming a guest in a future episode, which will now be in 2022, my email address is in the description below. Do get in contact as we're looking for guests for next year's run as well. And indeed, don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and tick that bell for any further notifications that go up. Always nice to have people commenting on the videos as they go along or afterwards listen to it. Always nice to hear what you think about my guest's choice of their games. And so to my guest this week. And yes, I start. Well, how do I start interviewing this person, or I say a relative newish comer to YouTube, but they're not really. They've been around for a good long period and doing very well for themselves. Somebody who spends a lot of time doing video responses, someone spends a lot of time doing little gameplay videos, pickups. Got a lovely little series called Let's Get Physical as well, which we shall talk about in a bit more detail. And somebody who's been very kind to send me some games over the past 12, 15 months or so as well, which has been absolutely fantastic. And we'll talk a little more about that as well, and the channel and their gaming history. This week I am talking to Retro Ed UK. Hello, Ed.
Hello there. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. And as I always say, thank you very much indeed for coming on and doing the Desert Island Challenge.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you so much for asking me and having me on this week. Very excited to be chatting with you.
No, it's good to have you here. And again, we've got all the details in advance. We had a quick chat beforehand, and I've got Ed's games in front of me. And again, as always on these episodes, we have games we haven't spoken about before, we haven't even touched on. And a couple of different systems as well, which we've not really covered in much detail, which is always good to see. And we'll get to those in due course. But I say a reasonable newcomer to YouTube. I mean, it's probably been, 15, 18 months, something like that, I would have thought.
Yeah, a lot less than that, really. So I started February time.
Was it really?
Yeah.
My God, time flies when you...
long. The year has flown. So, yeah, I kind of was bouncing around with a few... I did through lockdown last year. I put a bit of time into Instagram, and YouTube is really, I guess, the natural kind of succession for that, and really another way to kind of obviously engage with people that into retro. So I'm really into retro games, but also retro toys and movie stuff as well. So a lot of photos uploaded, and I just wanted to do something a bit more engaging, and YouTube was the place.
Yeah. I mean, there is again, like so many people have been on this program before, a lot of mixture of different genres. It's not all gaming. You said that there's toys and there's film side of it as well. I mean, I watched one of your early sort of film introductions. They've got clips from films on there, wasn't it? It was like Slimer from Ghostbusters.
Yeah, I tried to go for all things. Yeah, retro bit of Goonies and a bit of Van Damme kind of pops up. But yeah, when I started off the channel, in my mind, I mean, you don't really know until you properly get stuck into stuff. But in my mind, I saw it being almost 50% toys, 50% games, maybe the odd kind of film related thing every now and again. But I think the whole experience got me even more excited about retro games, and particularly when I started, chatting with other tubers, responding to comments and being reminded of games which I had perhaps back in the day, but not at the moment, which then kind of got me on eBay and other places to go and get them. The whole game thing probably, you know, swung over the toys. So the Star Wars collection, all the Master stuff, got, you know, played second fiddle to the Master System and all that stuff. So yeah, the gaming bit has probably been a bit more front and center than the other content on my channel.
That's it. I mean, obviously people can't see this because we can see each other, but obviously people can't see. But there's obviously the Boulder Hill behind you, the background from Mask, which I can see the box on top of that shelf there, and below that is a pile of games. So, you know, in the background, a complete mixture of both things that you said were, you know, sort of prominent on your channel. So.
Yeah, and I've got, I mean, you know, my wife probably hates me for it, but she's particularly tolerant, which works in my favour. But stuff, well, I've got stuff, you know, smuggled all around the house and the loft, and earlier this year managed to sneak a couple of systems into the kitchen and a little telly. So I'm taking over I'm taking over the place. But yeah, my main mission, and yeah, I mean the Boulder Hill piece has really been to kind of, in the simplest way, reassemble all of the games and the toys that I had as a kid, or equally the games and the toys that I didn't have, but perhaps my mates did, and I really bloody wanted. So Boulder Hill, I did have, but there's other, like the Millennium Falcon and certain other games I didn't. So as part of this journey, I've been kind of, you know, grabbing some of those items. It's been a bit of fun.
Yeah, it's a good approach to have. I think when I had the Daily Retro one, and Dale was very keen to capture a lot of the games. You know, he didn't have many games when he was growing up, but he was keen to get all those first and then add ones that he wanted to afterwards. But I like your approach because, you know, my advice to anybody who's thinking of getting something like this is have a focus. Don't do what I do and end up buying loads of stuff for different things, because that's how you get into trouble like this, and you end up with a house full of stuff. I know you said, you know, you're sneaking stuff in. I mean, yes, I've had the great warding off of July the 23rd or whatever it was, and that's why now I spent all my time consolidating all my stuff into sort of 2 areas. But I like your approach because, as you said, you know, stuff that you had when you were young, but also stuff that you didn't have. And in a way, you know, a lot of my collecting comes from that as well. It's more stuff that I didn't have because everybody else I knew had, you know, Mega Drives and Super Nintendos and N64s. I never had that. So when I started collecting for retro, that was where I was going to first of all, and everything else just sort of dominoed after that. It's like, well, I'll have that as well. I'll have that, and you know, whether I wanted to do it or not.
Yeah, and I think particularly with console, I mean, games for sure. And, you know, particularly in the last, you know, couple of years, I bought, you know, games I had back in the day and games I really wanted. But I've been, apart from the 3DS, which I've gone a bit OCD on, a bit of, you know, obsessive to basically going full set on that, which is a bit of a lunatic affair. All of the other systems are largely, you know, games that I'm excited about. I really want to play good games. So I've tried to go quality over quantity on that. So the exceptions are, really the 3DS and the toy front, Star Wars, a few bits and bobs with that. And also some consoles as well that I didn't have but wanted to. Some Sega ones in recent years I've kind of grabbed and wondered why the hell I didn't get them back in the day. Probably money, if it was the most obvious bloody reason. But
that's it. Yeah.
But you know, really thinking, well, I missed out on that. But now I get to enjoy it, so it's marvelous. Can't grumble.
That's right. Yeah. I agree. It's it is great, just that feeling of sitting down in front of something you never had but you always wanted, and now you've got it and you can experience it again. And you know, it's not always the experience you expect it to be, but a lot of times it's like, yeah, this is great. This is how I wanted it to be. This is great. I've been loving it. Yeah,
definitely.
That's good. Anybody who's not come across Retro Edge channel before, I'll put a link in the description below, as I always do, to everybody's channel who's been on here. Do go across and have a look at his content, and by all means feel free to comment, subscribe on his videos as well. And there's a lot of good stuff on that. And I suppose really as well, one thing that we can be accused of being on YouTube is we do like the sound of our own voices sometimes. And one of the great things about your videos is a lot of them are quite short and very well done and very, very short. So if people are looking for a sort of a quick video fix, there's a lot of stuff on your channel is absolutely perfect for it. So I wish I could
detest my own. I detest my own voice. I think whenever I'm editing, probably while the volume videos isn't great. I have to turn that bit right down, and even my son will pop in the room and say, "Oh yeah, is that you?" And I'm just like, "Yeah, don't ruddy rub it in." So that's probably why, Russ. But I kind of my videos, I try and have a I guess a steady, have some kind of semi plan. So the Let's Get Physical, which is really about me, talking about an object, a game, a toy, film related thing that means something. It's not necessarily rare, it's not necessarily really expensive, but it's quite iconic. So it could be the Game Boy, as a handheld console, Millennium Falcon, the Star Wars toy. So I go through bits like that, and I started off, and I was probably doing fairly long, laborious, detailed, too much information. And I thought, you know what, I think people sometimes just like to be reminded by something. Maybe I chuck in a cheeky little an advert or commercial link to it, talk about my personal experience as opposed to some drivel which someone could get off most places of the internet, wiki, and all that stuff. No, not a chance. I refuse to believe that. So yeah, that's kind of that. So that bit's been every 2 weeks. I put a video, normally on a Wednesday if I'm organized. That goes out, and then around that, I'll kind of film the alternate content will be pretty more topical things. So at the moment, I'm absolutely loving Ollie, so 8-Bit Boy UK's Sega Master System Challenge, and just re-exploring again some of the games which I did have back in the day, but there's an awful lot of games I didn't. And I'll be honest, I mean the Master System covers can always be a bit of a turn off. But I'm now
they're not the greatest, are they? Yeah,
they are absolutely not. But now, I mean, some of the recent picks, I've kind of got stuck into, and I thought, I would have loved this. Love it now. I would have loved it. Back in the day. So that's been good. And VRs, I mean, video responses, because again, there's almost an abundance of content on YouTube. And the thing that gets me most excited is people not just necessarily putting games up, but talking about what that game or that console means to them, what experiences have they got. That's the personable side of YouTube is what kind of gets me excited about it, as opposed to just the facts, the figures, and someone putting their hands in the air with a nice case.
Yeah. No, I that's a very, very good point, and I agree with that. And yeah, it's a good approach to doing it as well. And it's a good mix you have on your channel. I really do like it. So if you're not subscribed to Ed, or you're not aware of his channel, go across and have a look and show him some love on that one as well. You may want to listen to his gaming history and gaming list first. I don't know. You make your own choice up on to see what sort of games he comes up with. But let's kick off then, because we're going to tackle this slightly differently. You listen regularly will realise there's a bit of a structure for it, but we've had a bit of a chat about this. We thought, we'll just try something a bit different tonight and see how we get on. So where did it all begin for you then, Ed? What was the start of the journey to where you are now?
So it all goes back to the mid 80s. Round Christmas, when my dad brought home Spectrum ZX 48K, and in the years prior, I was obviously fairly young, but up to that point, childhood hobbies and stuff had all been about about toys and figures and Turn of the Jedi and all that stuff. My dad's always been into kind of innovative, cutting edge kind of technology for the time. So, he was one of the third terms, VHS, and even getting, a Walkman through. He got one imported from the US and bits like that. So, and he obviously saw it through his work as well. He got really excited by. So, yeah, this 48K thing turned up. A handful of games, all of the ones which people will be fairly familiar with, the Horace goes skiing and
survival, make a chip.
Make a chip. I played that once and was a bit gutted the cassette actually worked, because some of the better games didn't. So I was a bit gutted by that. And he bought some, and at the time I knew no better, but he bought home some, I think they were like kind of coding or programming magazines, but they were very generic to all computers at that time. So it wouldn't necessarily, if I copied from a book onto the screen exactly how it was, the Spectrum would just, be error at line 10, and that would be the end of that parade.
Given how long you'd have to type it in for as well.
Hours. Yeah, hours.
Does it work?
Definitely, but I loved it. I mean, some of the game, I mean, Horace goes skiing. So I replayed it obviously through an emulator recently because my ZX48K, I have no idea where it is. I've still got a +3 hanging around, but Horace goes skiing was superb. Spy Hunter, again, that blew probably one of the first kind of car games, albeit top-down car games I played, but just very blew my mind at the time. You go along a little chicane and then you transform them from a car into a boat, and you've got enemies with spikes on their wheels. For that age as well, it was all a bit exciting.
I remember playing that in the arcade, and I wasn't very good at it. And all I can remember was there's two older lads behind me. I must have been about, I don't know, 10 years old, something like that. And there's two older lads behind me. And obviously I'm trying to control this thing and kept crashing all the time on the side of the road. And he just turns, you get a lot of lives for 10p, don't you, on this one? Criticism of my gameplay, which to be honest, it hasn't improved since then. So,
tough game, very tough game.
It is a tough game. I thought actually it might just be naturally terrible at playing at it, but I've been played it again years later. It's like, no, it is a difficult game. So
I think all those games kind of, even, I mean, that one was tough, but platformers, Lancelot or Sir Lancelot, I mean, that took me an eternity. I must have been a very determined kid with far more patience than I do now, because I think I would have thrown in the towel or thrown in the tape, but I literally spent an eternity to get to the second level. But that was good fun. And Hunchback as well, which is a very steep difficulty level where you can literally, the first one you're just jumping over the turrets, and then all of a sudden it introduces a rope, and then you've got, if you dither around, you've got some knight with a bit of a stabby dagger kind of nudges you along. And tough games, but rewarding, I think, in the same sense. And because you waited a little while for the tape to load, if it was going to load, you
no guarantee.
Exactly. But you had more vested in it. You weren't just going to switch it off and change to another game because you might not have enough time to. So you practiced and you honed your skills. But yeah, I've got quite a few games, and even some of them were pretty rubbish. And I remember on a weekend going up the road to my dad to the newsagents, and they had one of those kind of cassette tape carousels, which had the cheapy 99p games. And I genuinely cannot. I've been racking my brains. I was trying to remember at least one decent one I pulled off that carousel, but they were all crud.
They were, yes. That's why they were $1.99 or 99p or whatever. They just weren't great games. But that that's all people of that age at the time as you were. That's all you could afford into your pocket money sort of things. It's a couple of quid a week if you were lucky.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely.
A lot of people would have done that. As we say, you mentioned Hunchback. Of course, that's an ocean game.
Yes, it is.
Believe it. Yeah. I was really surprised at that. And I've also got the text adventure as well, which I had no idea where that one came from. I got that in a bundle years ago, but someone told me that's quite difficult to sort of pick up nowadays.
Yeah. Never heard of it. Never come across that one. But I think because they were so, I mean, they were iconic, aren't they? A lot of those, and again, it's because of your childhood and growing up, but a lot of those covers are so iconic. I look back now, and you can picture it. I'm not, I've got far from it. I haven't got a very good memory at all, let alone a photographic one. But you can still, see that ocean in the bottom corner, and the damsel was Esmeralda in the background, and a little bit of distress, and the big nosed hunchback. I mean, it's all there. It's all there. Shame I can't remember anything since, but
I only remember the good stuff though. That's what it is.
Exactly.
Everything else. I mean, you mentioned emulation. See, I mean, are you one of these people who first play games in the old-fashioned way? So you get that system out nowadays, if you can find out where it was first of all, obviously, and load the games on tape, or would you prefer to go down the emulation way? Are you somebody who likes playing retro games the way they should be played, or?
I think on occasion I default to emulation. So one example, Sega Master System, if there's a particular game which is now, say, like £300, and there's probably a few of them in that category, being realistic, I mean, my wife would absolutely slaughter me, but even if I had that kind of available cash, I still wouldn't put, I wouldn't put my foot forward, all that. So those kind of games, yes. I think by far the majority I'm using, modern. Using retro kind of hardware. So, downstairs I've got like a Mega Drive in situ. I've got a Master System in situ. I've got the Dreamcast down there. I've got the Saturn. Not anyone else can see it, but Saturn kind of up there in the corner. Us only you can kind of see that. So every now and again I'll swap that round. So I'd say 90% of stuff I like to get the the old hardware out.
I think it is the best. I mean, if you want the real experience, and not so much. I also tape games as well. The chore of doing it. You remember what it was back then. You mentioned it before about whether the game's loaded or not. Even now, when I'm putting a tape in, I'm still not quite sure if it's going to work. So there's always the endless frustration when it doesn't work. But in a way, for me, that's the way to do it. It's to do it the old-fashioned way.
You kind of when you see the blue and the red, and then you get the yellow and the black on the specky. You're about to hit the final lap, and the bloody thing's gonna work. And
I mean, with the Commodore 64, because I tend to spend most of my time on that. It's swapping over the data. You put a tape, it doesn't work on one data recorder, so you take that one out, put another one on, and it gets a little bit further. So you really want to start getting a little bit further each time, and it's still not working out. I can swap out for another one, and it works absolutely fine on that one. So you're thinking, okay, it's not the tape that's faulty; there's an issue with the cassette recorder. So it's always a funny. But then again, sometimes you put this must be the one that works. So you put another tape in, and that don't work in that one, and you take it out and stick it in that one over there. It works in that one. So I was like, it's an absolute lottery, but it's the fun of doing it. It's the fun of doing it.
Yeah, it's like I don't know, like you're trying to break the Enigma code. Particularly, I can't remember what and it must be an obscure make. Otherwise, I probably would remember it. But the cassette player that my dad got us to plug into this 48K thing, but it was such. I don't know. I long when it was at the +2 with the built-in cassette. I long for that because I was forever adjusting the tone and the volume by little nano meters, and I still knew it would never work. I'm sure. What was it? I think it was Predator. I had, and I got it to work once. So unless my sister runs some big magnet down it or drops it somewhere or whatever, it was the weird. And I remember it was tough as nails. I haven't gone back to it since. I remember it being really tough. I remember the Predators kind of the triangle bit approaching my little character on the screen, and inevitably kind of killing me. But it only worked the one time. There's probably a couple of games, like that. But maybe it was, family sabotage. I'm not sure.
Well, the +2 was a great work of art anyway. I mean, it was the first Spectrum that I got. I mean, I've got the 48K now. I've got +3 as well. But it was the one time it was just a fabulous looking thing with that cassette deck built into it. Absolutely brilliant. I thought that was a stroke of genius. That was, and like I said, it eliminates that need for sitting there with precision twiddling knobs and things. And I've got a recorder which has got one of those volume things on it, which is for the Commodore 64, and it ain't very good. And I'd hardly use it. If I have to use it, it's a last resort. I'll use everything else first before I get to that one. So they're not.
I don't mind the loading times. I mean, it was more around just the probability of the thing working or not working. Because even now, I mean, we moan about, I don't know, you can moan about cassette. It's easy just if it's an emulator, it's just there and rah. But for my sins, we got a bit more of a modern console. I'd say it's made for my son. I play like the odd game, but whenever we think, okay, we're going to play on the Xbox, the inevitable update springs up, and that update probably lasts. Maybe it's our cruddy broadband, but 10 times as long as the cassette, on the ZX Spectrum to load that game.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah. You're trying to do an update on a modern game or something of that ilk, and you could be there for quite some time waiting for it to download, and it's only doing what we were doing 40 years ago, near enough, just sitting there waiting for something to work. And again, there was no guarantee it would work at the end of it. And if you're playing a multi-load, that's even worse because you have to load one level in, and if you don't get past that level, you have to rewind the tape and press play.
Gauntlet. You remember? Gauntlet. There was Gauntlet 1 and Gauntlet 2, but it was I remember pretty much going through the blooming night to just crack on, and obviously some levels you go into level 6 and you find the right exit, and then you jump to level 5. It was all a bit random, but a lot of loading. And if you get something's a bit wrong with the tape, or that is it, it's game over. forced game over.
Yeah, you spend all that time waiting for the loading, and then you die in the first level, and it says, "Please rewind the tape and reset the counter, rewind the tape," and he's like, "Oh, for goodness sake, not again."
But but it was. I'm probably sound like a bit grumbling about the tape, but the games themselves. I mean, there's some cracking titles. The ones I've just mentioned, Renegade, as well. And again, I mean, I was pretty young, and even I mean, if you remember the cover, but there's a few thugs. It looks like they're in like NYC subway and all holding blades. As like a 6-7-year-old child, I was like, "What the heck is this about?" Absolutely loving it. Albeit, I got mullered. I still find it a lot harder the first one than Target Renegade. The sequel really struggled. But when I pinned that first boss, I was punch in the air with my tiny little child fists. It was mega. But I got really fond memories of that game. Really good game.
It's a good game. The first, well, forget less about the third game, the better. But those first two games were pretty good. One of the games on your list, which we'll come to now, is to do with the Spectrum 48K. And again, people who grew up with that will remember it very well. So the first game on your list, if you'd like to introduce that one and give us a few words about it.
Yeah, of course. So the first game is School Days, and I mean, it's everything about it was probably the polar opposite to the school that I went to, and it was far from a perfect school, and there was a few rebellious kind of kids and some pranks made on teachers. But School Days just takes it to that extreme. And again, as a child, when you're given permission through a computer to cause absolute disruption of chucking those catapults into kids' heads, tripping people over, getting lines, getting put into detention. It just had, I don't know, a bit of a fantasy world. It just, everything that perhaps would have quite liked to have done at school that never would have had the balls to have done. But simple game. You kind of work your way around the school itself. You got to be, get to lessons on time. And I never got anywhere near the end. But the ultimate mission was to get your report card, which is going to be D-, from the headmaster's safe. And to do that, there was codes hidden behind shields. If you whacked a few of the teachers, they revealed letters. But I think I went into it with a bit of almost a Grand Theft Auto mindset, where it's just, I'm going to cause chaos. I'm not actually going to follow the gameplay. I'm just going to hit the SWAT. The SWAT was cool. Let's whack the SWAT. The history teacher looked like as much as he could. He looked like my history teacher. I'm going to take him down. Absolutely loved it. But yeah, I would like to play it. I would like to play it again. I did get a and I got it through. It was a milestone giveaway from Andy, UK Crowd Gaming, the C64 Mini, and it's on there. I want to give it a shot through that. Because mate, hopefully, I don't know, maybe rose tinted glasses and all that jazz. But I've got some nice memories of that game. It was a bit of a milestone for me.
It's still very well thought of, and there was a sequel. There was Back to School, I think it was, which was very much a similar thing. I never wasn't actually aware of that one at the time, but it's just one of those. It's sort of like watching Grange Hill. It was like you actually put yourself into an episode of Grange Hill off the telly, because you never think of doing any of those sorts. He said never sort of doing anything like that at your normal school. Here's your chance to live out what you could see on the telly and just get on with it. And very, very unique style game. I mean, you mentioned Grand Theft Auto. I mean, in a way, it's a bit like that. It's sort of, okay, you can follow the storyline if you want to, but you can go around just creating merry havoc if you want to on your own, can't you? So
yeah, you can go anywhere. You're going to get in trouble if you turn out in the wrong classes, or you go straight for the safe. If you go straight for the headmaster's office, you get a few thousand lines, and then I can't remember, maybe 10,000, something ridiculous. It's game over. You get turfed out, but you can have a lot of fun. And you were using, I'm sure I was using it on the keyboard, the QAOP, move around, and then the S for sit down. So you'd get just in front of the A seat, you'd sit down on it. The teacher would turn around, look at the whiteboard, you jump up, catapult to the back of the head, turns around, you sit. If you're not quick enough pressing that S button,
guy
behind you kind of gets the punishment. But yeah, a class game. I didn't play the. I knew of the sequel, but yeah, never played it. Interesting to see how that is.
Yeah, it's a game which I think people, if they talk of Spectrum games, it's one of those that crops up quite highly, or do you remember when you were at school type thing? Because you talk about certain systems, people remember certain sort of games, and that's going to be one that sort of sticks up there very well. But no one's mentioned that on Desert Island so far, which is great. So I'm glad somebody's actually picked up on that one, because it is a lot of fun. You can have a lot of fun with it, and it was different to a lot, most of the games that were around at the time. It was, I've always frowned upon games which try and educate you. So sort of trying to buy a game which is about school, I'm really not going to be interested in buying something like that. But when you actually play it, you realise actually this is everything you wanted school life to be, really. Just go around doing what you want, and having a bit of fun at the same time. Yeah, good choice, mate. I like that one.
Oh, thank you.
That's all right. So obviously you had the 48K. You mentioned +3 earlier. I guess you had a +3 as well.
Yeah, so we leapfrogged almost over the +2, and then I'm trying to think when it must be was it late 80s, but probably 3 years after. Again, I think it was around Christmas. But yeah, +3 turned up. Never had like too many games for it. Most of them were collections, like I had to look it up to remind myself what it was, the live ammo one with like Rambo,
yes.
Top Gun, which I'm slating, but I quite enjoyed that. Green Beret, so like Russian Attack on the NES. So yeah, that was good. Obviously, it took loading conundrums a bit. It was a bit more higher probability of success, better sound like music as well, wasn't it? With obviously 128 versus what I was used to on the 48K. I did get Target Renegade as well, so jumped to that sequel. But yeah, no, I enjoyed the +3. I've still, again, people won't be able to see it, and I'll drag out a bit. It's to the left of me. I haven't plugged it in for however long it is, 35 years. My mum and dad downsized earlier this year, and I had the say horrible task. It turned out quite good because I've, for one thing, found the +3 as well as lots of other items. But I got it, and they packed it away very nicely, and not even a speck of dust. So I've got all the the leads, a few discs. So yeah, maybe I should give it a go. I've no idea what will happen, but
well, that's it. I mean, the thing that tends to go most of me is the actual belts on the drive, which are fairly straightforward to replace. They seem fairly straightforward to replace, inexpensive to replace. But yeah, I mean, it is a system which is quite expensive to get hold of. Now, if you haven't got one, it'll set you back quite a few quid and work in order. And to get one with all the discs, get a good selection of discs as well, are very, very difficult to find out in the wild. If you go to independent shops or whatever, eBay's probably your best bet for them. But that was there. You had obviously the Amstrad had the same disc-based system as well, and the Commodore 64 had its own discs. They were the big ones. They were the 5.25 inch ones. Whereas were these 3.5 inch? They were slightly different shape, weren't they?
Yeah, must be about 3.5. Yeah, I've got I think I've got any down here, but yeah, a few games, not loads and loads. Certainly not as many +3 games as I had cassettes for the 48K, but still some good good titles. And quite often I'd go back to the likes of particularly Rambo. Where they drop the weapons in different different places, and you have to work your way into the camp, get the hot. And again, you'd pick up the big missile or the bazooka, and you cause a bit of trouble, and you get the color clash was pretty horrendous when you look back at it. But at the time, it was you were John Rambo who gives who gives a damn about anything else. It was you living the dream, and then you go from being kind of a soldier of fortune into being a fighter pilot, Tom Cruise, and then Top Gun. And I love Top Gun. Again, I didn't have much to kind of bench it against in terms of flying games.
That's right.
Pilot games.
I mean, flight games on those 8-bit systems were a bit basic at the best time. There were a lot of them around. I mean, I think the Ace games, Ace 1 and Ace 2, that was the most prominent ones I remember on, but they had versions like Gunship, which came out. I remember on the Amiga. That was on the Commodore 64 as well, which is really strange to see. But they were very, very popular. A lot of people liked them. And when I bought my Spectrum 48K, the guy I bought it off, two sorts of games in there: war strategy simulators and flight simulators. Which is just, I was like, well, I'd never in a million years think about playing any of these games, but now I've got the opportunity to do that. I haven't done so yet, but I will do at some point just to see what they're like. But I'm not exactly.
I had, was it Combat Links? I had like a helicopter.
I've got that. I've got Combat Links.
Yeah,
that's one of the ones I got.
That. Yeah, maybe that was 48K.
It was 48K because I bought the guy I bought it was a 48K system.
Yeah, had it in the big chunky plastic.
That's the one.
Almost padded plastic. Yeah, that brings back memories.
Yeah, it wasn't quite. If people remember the old video, we used to go to the video shop and get the videos out there. It wasn't quite like that either because it was thinner than that.
Yeah,
and they used all these cases were in different shapes and sizes. I've got small clamshells. I've got like one with Combat Links type one. I've got biggest clamshells, and I've got hard cases with like video boxes. The Armageddon Man, I think, came in a massive box like that. There's all sorts of different shapes and packaging on those. Very, very strange. But yeah, a Plus 3 is a system I will be looking to try and explore a little bit and just see what it's like. So, because when I grew up, I was playing the Amiga, which is disc-based but slightly different. So, having played take games on the 8-bits, I'd like to have a bit of a go at the disc and see if they work and see how we get on with those.
Yeah.
Okay, so after the Plus 3, what was the next step on for you?
So I then jumped onto consoles, and we had obviously long gone, but we had like an independent computer game place just up the road, and it must have been a bit of a weaker moment for my parents because we went in. I think it was around like birthday time, and they had some Master Systems in there, and I knew I kind of hear this through your the podcast, but the whole people either in an area that seems to be an abundance of Master System or abundance of NES. I don't think I knew anyone with a Nintendo. It was all kind of Master Systems or Atari STs, Amigas, etc. So this Master System was there, and I must have hypnotized my parents even more because I walked out with the super version, so like the 3D version.
Oh wow! Okay.
So I had that, so the 3D glasses, the card, Super Tennis, and then one I can't remember, and then one other game, but only ever used. It was such a faff setting up the. It was like spaghetti junction with the wires, but the 3D part of it because you use the card slot for the 3D glasses. You got the wire for that, and obviously the phaser gun. So I played Missile Defense.
Yeah.
On it a few times, but yeah, loved it. And maybe it was the jump from graphically the Plus 3 to that. I'm in seaside Southend in Essex where it's changed very much now, but there used to be the Golden Mile, which was just a mile of amusements, and they weren't penny pushers or the bloody Toy Story toy grabbers and all that stuff. It was proper arcade machines, so I was pretty accustomed to playing some proper arcades with some proper graphics. And when I plugged this Master System in, the games I saw there were far more aligned to perhaps the downgrade, unfortunately, in a lot of senses graphically between the arcades and the Specky. So it felt like I'd had a proper turbo boost with the old console. So yeah, love that machine so much.
It's fabulous. I mean, as you said about being an abundance of Master Systems and NES, I mean, it was the same for me. Everybody else I knew either had Spectrums or Amigas or STs or whatever. There was no NES at all. But a friend of mine had a Master System, and he always rave about it all the time. It's a system I always wanted. So, I mean, I didn't get one until maybe about 4 or 5 years ago. But like we said earlier, it's one of those systems you've always wanted to play on, and I think it's a fantastic system. I think graphically, some of the games on there look absolutely superb. They really do. I was watching a video the other night, and something like Fantasy Zone. It's hard to believe that something like that is running on a Master System. It's just beautiful. Colours are beautiful. Yeah. It's smooth. It does suffer a bit of flicker, that system, but streets ahead of the NES in terms of looks.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, with Fantasy Zone, I picked up It's a bit of a Japanese kind of import, but you can now get them over here, like the Astro City, like minis, like the Sega Arcade games, and Fantasy Zone. I mean, that series is one of my absolutely love that game. But yeah, you're right. I mean, the Master System one, compares very, very well to the arcade, and there's so many good games. I mean, Thunderblood, Secret Command, a whole host of games. Again, I mean, I mentioned it earlier on, but through the Sega Master System Challenge, just kind of re-exploring some of those, some Action Fighter, kind of week on week, it's just picking something new. And even when graphically they may fall down, playability wise, they're superb games. And I'm trying to grab them wherever I can, but they're fallen foul of this whole retro price inflation crappy madness, which is and to rub it in, this is the third time I've been collecting for Master System. So I had it back in the day after uni. I came back, and then a local place that used to sell a bit of everything, they had a master it was a Master System 2. I wasn't picky. I was like, I'll have that. And then loads of games for like, £2-3 quid. And then probably about 7 years ago, I sold it, and I was like, all right, so made the mistake twice. This time I'm going to hang on to them. But yeah, it's costing me even more.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I've said it before, and I'll mention it again very, very briefly. I was really start ramping up collection for Master System last year. Just about February last year, I thought, I want a system where I want to get, boxed versions of the games that I want to lose. I want to get as good as I can get. And then obviously we had COVID and what have you, and all sort of fell by the wayside. And by the time I come out the other side and think, I'm going to carry on doing this, as you're quite rightly saying, it's one of those systems that everybody seems to want to collect for. It's great that so many people have shown so much love for it and given it the respect it deserves. So many people doing videos and gameplay challenges and high score challenges, and it's brilliant. But of course, as you mentioned, the price just been ticking up, and all of a sudden those cheaper games are gone now, which probably would have been attainable 2 years ago, perhaps at a lot less price, because it was a very affordable system to collect for. Now it's a bit more tricky, and of course people get more and more picky because they want the hang tabs, they want the manuals, they want the good condition boxes. So if you do come across something, if you're collecting at a certain level, a lot of the stuff that's available, you're going to be going, it's missing that, or it's missing that, or it's missing that. And
exactly with the, particularly because again, I mean, like the cases that, I mean, the Master System cartridges are even more generic, and the maybe a few years ago, for some, there are a few exceptions, like Super Nintendo, maybe because of Nintendo Cardboard, Mega Drive. I bought a few like loose carts, but when it comes to Master System, I don't think I wouldn't buy a loose Master System game. I want it, and with the manual, you just think, well, if I get it without the manual, am I really going to find the manual on its own? So I'm then going to have to buy an entirely new one, get rid of the old one, and I'm bloody lazy with eBay. But when it comes to wrapping stuff up and sending it, I don't mind doing it with lovely tubers who I know are going to appreciate it, but the rest of it, it sounds a bit really lazy, but I just can't be bothered with it. So I do tend to just say, almost hold back. And if the game I want isn't there to the right quality that I'm going to enjoy it as a collector, not just a gamer, then I'm going to pass on it. And I've got a bit more stubborn with that in recent years, because the prices are going up and because it's difficult to get certain, to complete, sets that were originally kind of partial. So, and also it's funny with eBay, you kind of, maybe it's not funny, but you're bidding for something and you think, am I bidding against a fellow tuber? Are we within this niche? Because it's a fairly niche community. I mean, the retro thing is still fairly niche. There's a lot of people very passionate about it, but in eBay terms and YouTube terms, it's quite a small percentage. So you do just know certain games that everyone has got it in their watch list. Maybe other people are bidding on it. So it's quite expensively funny. I'll leave it at that.
That's it. Yeah, I think you're spot on there. You're never quite sure who you're up against. And I mean, most of my Master System stuff has come out from the independent game shops by me. Really, that's where I picked it up. But the problem is, if you go there on a regular basis, you tend to scan through all the games. Very rarely you come across something completely new. or you've missed it. So the chances are that although they've got lots of stuff on the shelf, you've already seen it 2 or 3 times already, and you still find yourself checking. Oh, there might be a manual in this one. No. It's like, but if you set your collection, condition so high, if there are people out there who want to collect for it, who aren't bothered about loose cartridges and aren't bothered about having manuals and whatever, then there's probably quite a bit of stuff you can get, but it's still going to be a little bit higher than it would have been a couple of years back. But that's the perils. That's perils of collecting. Perils of collecting, isn't it? So
I'm quite fortunate. I mean, a few other, particularly YouTubers in Essex do go and visit it, but I have literally 5 minutes up the road. I've got the Retro Hunter, which is an amazing video games alley in there. He runs it as a business, but he's very, very, in terms of deals, in terms of prices, in terms like bundles, keeping stuff aside or having a healthy lookout for you. It's really so you get obviously far more confidence and comfort through dealing with someone like that than you do through eBay, unless it's obviously a seller you've been dealing with time and time again. So I'm very, very fortunate with Ali. And he does, I don't know where he magics stuff up from, but the turnover does seem pretty remarkable. My main fear isn't the turnover, it's more my fellow tubers, and they won't mind me mentioning, but there's Essex Rob, Essex Retro Gamer. He's just down the road from it. I know Roger Retro Gamer, he's there at least on a monthly basis because I bump into him every now and again, and he's after a bit of Master System too. So
yes, he's been showing his collection off. Yes.
So I was in there. Did bump into him a month or so ago, and he strolled over. I don't think he didn't quite see it was me originally. He strolled over towards the Master System games. I know why you're here. So it's absolutely brilliant. He took all the good games, I'm sure, but then it's all good. It's all good. But I'm lucky to have that place. I just wish there was more. I do hear obviously about other places around the country, but again, it's quite niche. It's few and far between compared to how it used to be. And Marketplace, I never have any joy in Marketplace and other places. Apart from very recently, I did okay on a couple of 3DS games, but normally it's just astronomical prices from people that I don't think they really know what they're selling.
Yeah, I tend to stay away from that because if I got into the habit of doing Marketplace, then that'll be it. It'll just be. I'll need a new house with all the amount of stuff on here. I'd end up buying. You mentioned Roger Retro Gamer. I'd love to get him on here as well because I think he'd be a fantastic guest as well. So if he's listening, get in touch. I'd love to have you on as well.
That'd be great. I'll pester him as well. He's one of the best storyteller, and we were talking earlier, weren't we, about people that kind of overlay their personal experiences around these games and getting consoles. Back in the day, he is one of those. He's a true storyteller. No kind of no jump cuts or edits. He opens a wonderful set of anecdotes and he closes, and it's genuinely what he sounds like I'm blowing smoke in a certain direction up in Essex. But I like, really good channel, really good content.
That's why I would love to get him on next year. But it'd be fantastic to have him on because I like storytellers, and that's how people compliment me on my channel. They say that's one of the great things. We listen for the stories that you tell rather than what I'm showing off, which is fine because usually it's crap anyway. So the stories sort of fill in the gaps. So that's it. While we're on the subject of the Master System, next game on your list is off that system itself. Yeah. And is it what I've got? I'm having a look. I can't see now.
It's criminal if you haven't got it. I'll get you a copy if you haven't. I
shouldn't be on here. I'll tell myself off my own program. If it is that one, I have got it. Yes, it's all right. It's the one that's hiding at the very bottom. Yeah. So second game on your list then.
So the second, it's the ninja in me, but not the ninja. It's Shinobi. Absolutely. Again, it's very, very close to the arcade, in my opinion. Great kind of graphics. Perhaps a bit easier than some of the other Shinobi entries, but when I played it, the benchmark for me was a lot of +3 games. So I was just like, wow, I've got the arcade on my little, whatever it was, 12, 13-inch Sanyo TV. Absolutely blooming loved it. And I mean, like most people, we had that, and I had Missile Defense and Super Tennis, or the tennis game, which I don't think I played too often. So most of my efforts and time went into into Shinobi. And again, you know, taking out not just other ninjas and people with, you know, boomerang swords, but, you know, people with guns, you know, big bosses, magical flames whirring around. It was just like a superb game. And in one of those where you needed to, particularly for the bosses, you needed to learn the moves, the patterns, the traits.
Yeah.
Good, you know, good banter with schoolmates, because a few of my mates had it at school when you've been, how do you know, I was stuck on bloody first level. How'd you get past Keno? Shoot me, shoot me in the eyes. It's like, okay, I'll go back and do that tonight. Absolutely love that game.
I like the music on it as well. I thought the music was really good as well. Yeah,
classic. Everything about it. I mean, the opening screen where you just see the ninja eyes, you know, looking left, looking right. The 3D, remember the 3D?
Yeah, the shuriken. I was about to mention that. Yeah.
I was rubbish at them.
Oh yes, me too. Rubbish. Yeah, absolutely rotten at it.
They get closer, then the big one away. Well, I'm done for, and then they've got you. Really good game. I've struggled with. I do play the others, and I've the last year or so got Shinobi X for the Saturn, and some of the full motion kind of cutscenes are super cheese, but the game itself, I find the game really hard. And even with the Mega Drive, was it Revenge of the Shinobi? The Mega Drive
Revenge of Shinobi, wasn't it? Yeah.
You got limited knives or shuriken. With the first one is just you know, you can make a few mistakes, you can cock up, but you know, you've got unlimited shuriken. But it did seem to get a bit tougher. But yeah, love that game. It's another one that was on the Astro City, which I kind of played on that, and I thought it's very similar to the Master System one. Embarrassingly, I've got to point out, it did come up on the Master System Challenge, and I still can't bloody complete the game. It's an absolute.
A friend of mine he used to give us updates at school about playing on it, and I think he eventually got through it the one day. And I won't spoil it for anybody who hasn't played it, but he was incredibly unimpressed with the ending. I'll leave it at that, because there might be some people, as you said, never finished it. I never finished it either, but I can think of what he told me at the time, and it's always stuck with me for some reason, because it's one of those games, things that he tells me that I wind him up with occasionally. I'll say, "Oh, yeah, just like Shinobi, isn't it?" You know, and he's, "Oh, don't talk about Shinobi." You know, where are we now? 35 years later, you know, still talking about it. But you talk about Revenge of Shinobi as well. I went to buy a copy of that. They've got a copy of one of my CXs locally, so I do check the stock every day. I thought, oh. There's only cartridge. I thought, well, at least cartridge Mega Drive. I don't bother. It's a few quid, you know. It'd be nice to have a copy of it. And of course, I went to buy it, and it turned out it was actually on one of the Mega Games compilations. So
Was it with soccer and no? Was it with two other?
Yeah, two other. Yeah, but they'd advertise it. They got Revenge of Shinobi on cartridge, and when they bought the cartridge from out the back, it was like the Mega Games one with Shinobi and possibly Golden Axe.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's two other good games. Columns, maybe. Is it Columns?
Yeah, Columns on everything. Probably or Super Monaco Grand Prix. I can't remember when we might have been on that one. Yeah. But I thought, well, 3 games for the price of what you're asking for Shinobi. I love that, you know. So it was disappointing, because I still wanted the original cartridge, but that's it. But yeah, I mean, this is just classic, you know, ninjas. We grew up with ninjas. There were ninjas everywhere in the 80s, weren't they? You couldn't move
Last
for ninjas
Ninja
and everything.
America, you know, in terms of gaming, the Last Ninja games and American Ninja.
Yeah, you mentioned
80s films.
You mentioned the Ninja, you know, a Mass System game as well, which was, again, got some fantastic music, but my goodness me, that's a tricky game to play.
Again, that was on the challenge. I think he must have Ninja in his DNA, but Retro Red Steve, who's like, when Shinobi came up on the Master System Challenge, there's one bit I've always struggled with over the years, and I still struggle with when we were on this week of the challenge, and I can't, it's like, maybe it's the 4th level, but it's like Mandara. I don't know if it's like, basically it's a series of blocks. It's just like, it's about 5 blocks deep and about 10 high. You've literally, and I think it's 2 or 3 shuriken into each block, and then it evaporates, and you've got to basically get through them all. As the wall gets closer to you, if it gets too close, it bashes you backwards onto the lasers, and then you're done for. So you've got to basically bash the buttons. And I just can't, you know, even do it. Not just with the old, I even try with a more modern controller. It's still not having it. So I was messaging Steve, and he's like, "Yeah, you need to get the gun or the knives and do it." It's like, I still can't. But then he KOs me on that, and then the Ninja. I don't think he quite completed it, but he must have tripled my distance. He was going up it's a bit of the mountain. He got to the top of the mountain. I was in the valleys. I was
a long way behind.
It was good fun, but I mean, lots of those games, I enjoy them, but I'm not that great at. I mean, I draw similarities between that and say Commando. You know, people coming from all directions. It's a bit haphazard. You kind of left, right. You can go random on it, but you're better. There's little styles. And now when I watch the likes of Steve or people more competent gamers than me, you can see there's like all these games. There's some technique, but the Ninja again, it's another tough Master System game. But I think they were all fairly tough back then.
They were. All games were tough back then. Yeah. And you make a very, very good point that you don't necessarily have to be very good at games to enjoy them, because that's always been my. You know, there are some games that I've got through and completed and done, but generally speaking, I'm rubbish at games, and everybody says it. Everybody says that I'm a rubbish game player. Not me personally, but you know, they say I'm a rubbish game player. Everybody says, "Oh, I'm not very good at games," and that's fine. We just enjoy what we do. We don't have to be good at it. We just have a bit of fun with it, and if we are good at it, and we get very far with it, we do finish it. We do get, you know, we're happy with that.
I mean, shoot 'em ups for me. Shoot 'em ups is probably one of my one of my most favourite genres of games. But am I good at them? I'm bloody dreadful. But I enjoy it. I mean, like everyone, you get kind of busy with family, with work and stuff. Shoot 'em ups, you can literally fire up the system, have a play, engage, disengage, and do something else. You haven't gone, you're starting from zero pretty much. Yeah. But yeah, I am not good at those. Not good at those games.
I agree with that but I agree with that, and the reason I agree with that is because it's probably the one genre that I'm absolutely terrible at. But it doesn't annoy me that I'm terrible at it. I could play, beat 'em up games. I could play racing games. I could play sports games. And if I'm very good at it, I'll get really annoyed. But if I play shoot 'em ups and I ain't very good at them, I don't get annoyed. I'll keep going. I'll have another go. I'll have another go. I'll have another go. And, maybe an hour and a half later, I'm still rubbish at it. I still haven't got very far with it. But I think, okay, well, that's fine. But anything else, 10, 15 minutes or so, half an hour getting battered, I'm like,
it's like that.
Throw the pad off.
Put it to one side.
Yeah, put it to one side, never play it again. So it's just one of them.
And if it's at home, you've got unlimited. It's not like you're in the arcades and you've got credits and all that stuff. I was at the again next to Retro Hunt. I'm kind of semi-plugging it. There's a really good arcades co-owned by the same guy, and was in there the other day and playing some of the Raiden and a couple. There's another like shooter on the Neo Geo arcade, and obviously it was kind of unlimited credits on that. But you die so quickly. You think back in that this would have cost me, a month's worth of pocket money in the space of 10 minutes. But they're a bit of fun, aren't they?
That's it. So that's Shinobi's second game on your list as well. And we talked about the mass system in great length. What a great little system that is. No disguising that one. So after the mass system,
so kind of did the 8-bit, 16-bit kind of upgrade and moved to the Mega Drive.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, maybe got a bit competitive through school, but a few of my friends, getting for birthdays and Christmases and other stuff. So other times, and again, I spoke to my mum and dad and kind of pleaded, and we got down on knees and was like, "Look, can I get one of these?" And so eventually got one. Didn't have a lot of too many games for it. I had the customary Sonic, Golden Axe, I remember, which was you can't really go wrong, obviously, with Golden Axe if you're getting your mates round. And I probably did more multiplayer on the Mega Drive than I had on any prior system as well, just through the nature of the game. But Golden Axe was one. T2, like the Terminator 2, the arcade version.
Oh yeah,
had that, and that again. I'm trying to think. I was probably too young to see the film. I think I'd seen some dodgy bootleg, which I could have been watching anything, Russ. It probably wasn't even Terminator 2. Could have been anything. But I had T2, the arcade game, and I'd seen it down good old South End arcades as well, with a proper, the Uzi thingamajig. So I kind of loved it. I played those games, a fair bit, and we did through mates, as a lot of people did, weekend blooming swapsies, because there was that common denominator of loads of people having similar systems, just rotating carts around. Did that, and I was trying to think of it earlier. I did remember earlier in the day. Centurion, I think I had that I think that was for the Mega Drive.
I don't remember that one.
Oh, it was a kind of strategic game. Very much, albeit obviously around the age of Roman times, a bit like remember like North and South, that game. The same kind of premise where strategically on the map you move people around, but then it cuts to an action scene. But as opposed to old Civil War soldiers, they were kind of Roman battalions, battling each other. And it was some slightly more sophisticated. So it's a bit of I wouldn't quite say like an RPG, but it's more statistic based stuff that I'd never kind of ventured into before. I actually quite liked it. Whether or not it holds up now, maybe it's a load of pants and I hate it. But for me, it was novel. It's quite a new thing. I never come across it.
It's an unusual game to have on the Mega Drive. I mean, I know there were some of the Dungeons and Dragons games came out on it, and they were obviously like fantasy style, but slightly different. But yet to have a game like that on them, I didn't even know that game was on the Mega Drive, so that's quite an interesting one. Very strange.
I'm interested to see how that. It wasn't like. Maybe it wasn't Electronic Arts. I just almost remember a bit yellow, something funky about the cart, but maybe but maybe not.
That'd be interesting to find that.
Yeah.
I'll have to look at
it. But it was funny, and I also remember the person who gave me that game was my nan. And maybe I think it was one of the very few. I don't remember buying me any. No, in fact, there's one other game which we'll come on to in a bit that she did buy for me, which we'll talk about I think later on in the podcast. But she bought me this one, and I actually thought it was some educational type thing. But yeah, I mean, like all these, it was quite a pricey game. It was like 50 quid or something. But all the games were pricey.
Yeah, that's right.
But yeah, so that was a bit of fun. But I did enjoy the Mega Drive. I think I've got, apart from the, like I said, the multiplayer kind of aspect, probably got more love for the Master System. And I had the Mega Drive for a year and a bit, and then I bounced on to my next kind of console.
Yeah, and that was
the Super Nintendo. So I did get a bit of
you crossed
Mario
over.
Love.
Crossed over to the dark side. Am I joking? Nintendo listeners?
But I got it. Yeah, full confession on this. I bloody loved that console, and I did. I loved the Mega Drive, and the games I had, albeit not many. That most of them were, were real kind of classics. But a few games, particularly obviously, Mario Kart. I mean, that game again. It's so I can still go back and play it now, and even a few years later, at uni we kind of played it, and the various kind of milestones where Mario Kart just like the original that just comes back, and we kind of whack it on, but. F-Zero, obviously futuristic kind of super racing game, and obviously they repeated that on some of the subsequent consoles.
That's right. Great game, F-Zero. I love that one.
And then even some again, I had to remind myself of what it was, but I don't know if you played it, but a football game, Fever Pitch Soccer.
I didn't play. I saw it at the time, and I thought it looked very like Sensible Soccer. I thought that looks like a direct rip-off, but I think it wasn't quite, was it?
No. So it has this, in terms of the gameplay style and how how you kind of move the ball around, and some of the basics of it are very similar. You're right, but it introduces almost a bit of a Marvel superhero effect, whereby if you build up, I can't for the life remember how you build it. You build up almost like a power bar or an energy bar. And then if you unleash on a certain button, you just do some super shot on goal that defies all physics in the entire universe. You'll literally do a boomerang around the pit. The ball will catch fire, back of the net. And it's basically, if you've got that power up, 9 times out of 10, that goal's going in the back of the net. And perhaps, me and my mates, we were kind of accustomed to, kick off and a few other goal and a few other more conventional football games, and maybe I was the plonker, but the lone person that had this game. It was just really good. Like single player, but multiplayer was where it's at. And we even, maybe we were going a bit, a bit crazy, but we were too young for alcohol at that age. But we created a bit of a kind of, a language. If you kind of did the super shot, the person would yell out "Super Spandayu." And, it was. I think we were off our rocker. I think maybe someone was pumping something into the games room at that stage. But that game, it brought out, something in me and some of my friends. But it was an absolute classic, an absolute cool game. But
I missed that one.
It's worth, completely. Hopefully, it's still worth a shot. Again, unless it's maybe it hasn't stood the test of time. But I do remember having a lot of comedy. A lot of comedy out of that game.
So the problem with that, I don't like sports games which have power-ups like that. I've always shied away from games. I remember playing Adidas Power Football at a friend's house, and you could do power-ups on that and have these stupid shots. And there was a World Cup game which came later on, which had a similar thing, like World Cup 2002, I think it was. And I thought, I just want to play that. Footballers shouldn't have power-ups. You want to do power-up games, what they do with Mario Strikers and Mario Charge Football, that's where that sort of thing should be, because you're not trying to be a proper football game. So
it was a bit of a hybrid, because you could, if you had a friend you could trust, then you could both agree not to press that button, whatever that button was on that joypad, and then you could have a more conventional game of football, as long as you ignored the flashing power items, you didn't press the button. Then it would be, but then, like you say, maybe then Sensi or another game would have kind of ticked off that requirement. But a good game nonetheless. And then the only other one that sticks in my mind from that period was Smash TV.
Yeah,
the Running Man video game, basically. So that was
great game. That
and again, I mean, maybe you're still fairly young, and it's a bit a bit of an ultra violent type premise. And it's superb game, absolutely superb.
I was never very good at it, but it's a game I remember playing and enjoying, and couldn't get very far with it. But just that, his whole premise is like it's exactly like the Running Man, isn't it? The Running Man came along probably around about maybe just before this was released, and it's exactly the same concept, and it's very, very similar. And you think, but perhaps I should have made a game about the Running Man based on that rather than the game they did do, which is terrible. But there's that way around it as well. You mentioned one game there previously, which is on your list, and also there's another game on your list for this particular system. So, do you want to tackle the one, not the one for this system, but the one in between? Tackle's probably the clue there.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good one. That's very good.
That's a good. Yes, we're good.
Very good. Yeah. Clap, clap, clap.
Thank you. I'm here all week. Yeah.
Oh, awesome. And I'll be back. So this links to the more kind of a computer or system that I did not own, albeit it was on some of the consoles that I own, but it was Sensible Soccer.
That's right, because it was on the Mega Drive. It was on the Super Master System.
Yeah,
I think it was on the NES as well, wasn't it? I think it was.
I'm not sure about the NES. It's definitely on. I've got it now.
Oh, sorry, not the NES, the Super NES. Sorry, my mistake there. I think it was the Super NES.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it was through a friend, really. And I mean, I've got it more recently for some of my consoles. But there was one friend who literally, and perhaps we were a little not massively younger than we should have been, going to a pub, but he lived right by the pub. And so we would go around his for kind of pre and post pub gaming. And Sensible. It's kind of some snazzy abbreviation. But Sensi was the game. And calm and collected before the pub. Yeah, it's a few little bit of a tournament, a bit of a kick around. And then absolute, post pub. I'm still convinced my playing style and my skills and my scoring rate was better with a bit of booze. But we would have some tremendous post pub battles. On this game, an absolute classic. And I'm not another bit of a confession. I'm not massively into football. I follow Liverpool because otherwise my wife and her family would castrate me. A
lot of people switched off now.
Is my mic gone? Hope we're not losing too many of your listeners.
It's more your subscribers I'm worried about now.
I'm sure I've confessed in the past on that one. But football games, always enjoyed. Even going back to Italia 90, Specky.
There was a few versions like that. The one I played was Italy 90, which I think was a US Gold game on the 64. But I also had it on the Amiga, and it wasn't a great football game by any stretch of the imagination, but it was very, very playable. And I used to love that one. But there was that one by US Gold. There was World Cup Italia, which I think was a Virgin game, and that was the other one that was around at the time. Then Kickoff brought out a part of Kickoff 2, the World Cup expansion or something, or it was included in that version as well. So there was quite a few of those knocking around at that time.
Yeah, with the early one, it was more like kind of football. Largely, the ball kind of stuck to your feet, but there's a bit more kind of physics and a bit more dynamics. But sensey, and there were particularly on the Sensible World of Soccer. There's a few scoring techniques which, again, 9 times out of 10, more often than not, you're going to land a goal if you go, as I call it, the old Bishop style. If you tackle the goalkeeper diagonally and shoot, it's probably going to go in. And if you do like a vertical shot, literally just to the side on the net side of the goalpost, again, you're probably gonna get at the back of the net. And also those crazy, and they were the most satisfying ones, the half liners where you'd literally, you had the after touch, wouldn't you? So you'd pull back on the stick and launch the ball and then kind of swerve it round. And if you got that in, they were just you were treated as a god for all of 5 minutes.
The one I used to, my favourite one on Sensi was probably just inside the halfway line where you take a throw in, and you do a diagonal throw, straight throw to your player, and you just run at a slight diagonal, and then you'd shoot from about 35 and just bend it, and it would always 9 times out of 10 end up in the far corner. I used to think, I used to hate games like that where you used to find a certain point and you could always score from it. You know, 9 times out of 10 it's always scored, is it? But you know what I mean? It sort of takes a bit of the fun away from it there. I mean, Sensible Soccer is a very, very good game. It's not my favourite football game. I don't dislike it. I quite enjoy it, but I think Kickoff 2 is a better game for me. I got more enjoyment out of that, and I think going back to what you said about playing with your friends, me and my mate used to play Kickoff 2 all the time. And that's where we did play Sensible Soccer, but we end up going back to playing Kickoff 2.
Yeah,
we just preferred it,
But then, the nostalgia kicking of the ball, kicking the nostalgia. I think that again, that kind of plays a bit of a role, doesn't it, in terms of your preferences and where those memories kind of truly lie. But we had, and like I said, back then I didn't kind of own it, but it made it even more of a treat because I knew when we were going to the pub, we were probably going to play a bit of Sensi, and for some weird reason, it's changed now. I'm rubbish at football games, but I wasn't great at it, but I was pretty good at it, which made it even more satisfying.
That's it. I used to love the fact you could edit all the players' names on Sensible Soccer on the Amiga. You just change every single name, and it came with all these wonderful custom teams, like based around dogs or EastEnders or whatever, and the entire sort of squad would be, breeds of dog or characters from EastEnders, or you could put your own ones in and change them. And it's just great. It was fantastic. That added so much to it, because a lot of football games you just simply didn't get that. You either got the made-up names, which I just never could get my head around, names which weren't even. Kickoff 2 was obviously the biggest crime for this one. People just names of players which didn't mean anything to anybody, and no names at all. So. In fact, you could edit these players and put all your mates in, have a team based around your mates, or you could update them and include all the latest players and transfers and things. Yeah, it's absolutely ideal. A lot to it, but
simple thing. But I mean, it meant such a lot. And I think, was it the Sensi game after, which I didn't play that much, but there was like a player manager one, wasn't there, as well, which took it to the next level, maybe gave a bit more of a life.
Was that World of Soccer, or was that the one after that one?
Might have been. Yeah, it might have been.
Because I think there were 2 versions of Sensi, and then I think there was Sensible World of Soccer, which had more of a management style to it, which I never actually played. I only played the one with Rude Hullet on the front of it. That was the only one I played.
Yeah, I think I'm the same, because I think that the player manager one, maybe it's Sensible World. So that was the had had the little cheeky theme tune, I think, at the beginning, didn't it?
Yeah, I think it did. Yeah,
80s sounding track, bit of a cheesy number. But...
Yes, it did. Yeah, it cropped up on the Retro Gamer quiz a couple of weeks back, I think.
Okay, yeah.
I think it did. Yes, that's right. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a very good football game. Don't get me wrong, but I have my own preference really, rather than that one. So
fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's it. We're not here to agree, are we? Because otherwise, we'd be really dull. We also talked about Super Nintendo. The next game on your list, which is game number 4. I have a lot of experience with this game, and none of them are any good. So
really,
yes. Well, it's not one of my favourite games. So go on. Why is it on your list then? Why is it on your list, and what is it?
This game, I'm not exaggerating. I probably pumped in a good £100 plus into this in the arcade. Be it down the seafront, any opportunity I could get, I would play this game. Even when the circus or the fairground came to Southend they still do come on an annual basis, but they don't bring the arcade type tent. But it was there. It's Street Fighter 2, World Warrior. And awesome.
Just before we launch that, very interesting, because you mentioned about the fact you played it in the arcade. I'm the only person who never played this in the arcade, because I've spoken to so many different people about this game, and they've all said exactly the same. It's one of my favourite games in the arcade. I was going to arcades on a reasonably regular basis. Not every week, but every few months or so. This one must have passed me by completely, because the only time I realised this game existed was when they announced it was coming out for the Super Nintendo and obviously the home systems, and it's the greatest arcade game ever. I thought, well, hang on a second, the first game was absolute dog cack.
Yeah.
The first game was utterly terrible. So why has this game all of a sudden got this really hyped sequel, advertising everywhere, big page spreads in the magazines? And I just didn't understand. So I must be the only person who didn't get it in the arcade, just didn't play it.
It was so, where we were, it was so big. And even, again, without exaggerating, if you went into the arcade, it wouldn't be like crowds, but the concentration of people would be around Street Fighter 2. And there'd be, winner plays on. It was quite difficult to get onto it to do single player, because it was very competitive. And I don't think I ever saw that of any other kind of game, certainly like locally. And even, I think it might be the news agents, but other smaller shops cottoned on to the fact of how popular this game was, and they'd get the arcade machine in just to make a bit of money. So you kind of leaving school, heading back, or pop in and play a bit of Street Fighter 2. But you're right, the first one is a load of pants, and I think it's just, it was almost like Ken versus Ken. Was it just one, or Ryu versus Ryu? One. It was very basic.
Yeah, but it was very, very simple and straightforward. I think you could only choose the one character anyway, and I think it might have been Ryu. I think it was Ryu all the way through. I think, yeah. But yeah, I remember reading the reviews in the magazine when it came out, and again, I didn't see the original arcade game, but I saw the reviews in the magazine for this Street Fighter game. They were absolutely slating it, how bad it was, and they said it was actually a fault of the original arcade game, because the original arcade game wasn't all that good. So they really must have gone to town to make this incredibly wonderful sequel that everybody was raving about.
Yeah, but for me, it was the breadth of the characters, the fact that even the first one, trying to think, was about, obviously it increased, but maybe 8 in the original Championship Edition. It opened up some of the bosses, but you had a large degree of characters. The fact that waggling the old joystick around to do those kind of special moves, and the dokens, and the dragon punches, and a degree of mastery and practice to be able to pull those moves off at the right time, because it's not, unless you kind of plug it in the home version anyway, you plug in a secondary controller and just leave it there, and then you beat the heck out. In the arcade, where you're either playing another human, or you're playing a fairly aggressive CPU that wants to take your money and get show the continuous screen with the bloodied nose and all that, so you're pumping more money, and it was really, really tough. And for some reason, I just got my the hands around the controls, and kind of loved the game to bits. But bringing it home, and not being able to play it when I wanted at a cheaper price, albeit my mum and dad had that outlay of, it was a ridiculously priced game. It was about £70.
It was, my mate paid £65 for it.
Yeah,
when it came out. I mean, that was a horrendous amount of money. You very. I mean, I've seen games recently priced around that, and I think that's still a lot of money now. But you think about that 1992, 93 when it came out. Someone paying £65 for a game.
How much is that? Way over £100, isn't it? It's like
it's insane amount of money, Ed.
Yeah, crazy. How that happened, I have no idea, but it was the best. It was a Christmas day.
Yeah.
And I got a couple of brothers, and they kind of came down Christmas Day. Everyone was coming around, and we'd spent most of the day, most of the night on that. And I genuinely had blisters from trying it on the deeper, trying to do the Hadokens, and not so much the Hadokens, the dragon punches, because I was accustomed through obviously the joystick of the arcade, trying to then do it on the controller. It was a bit of a different dynamic, and not one that I grasped just like that. So I'll be honest, I was even my sister was like, "Look, I'll give you're meant to be the bee's knees at this. We'll see how good you are." And I wasn't all that, as I was trying to get my head around this bloody controller, and then adjusting, because obviously you've got the shoulder buttons, which you can adjust. So they're the medium. So you've got the light and the heavy as the circular buttons, and the shoulder buttons for the medium. So it took a bit of adjusting, but once Christmas lunch was down me, and I played a few, then it was, I was kind of, I was good in it, but it was such a good game. I think that when that came on, it was that and Mario Kart. I don't think many other games got a look in to the system.
Yeah, I mean, as a system, I love the Super Nintendo. I was very jealous of people who had it. I like the Mega Drive. I've probably grown more appreciative of the Mega Drive over the years now. It's probably my favourite system against the two, but it's a very close run thing. I said there's some cracking games for it. I played so many really good titles. I mean, you mentioned Mario. I mean, Mario Kart, Street Fighter 2, Pilot Wings, Super Star Wars. Super Tennis. I think Super Tennis was a fantastic game. You ever played Super Tennis on Super Nintendo? One of the best tennis games ever. I remember watching Super Soccer for the first time and thinking, that's a bit weird. Have you ever played that one as well, which is like a 3D soccer game?
I haven't played it. Is that the one that looks like Donald Trump on the cover, the blonde hair?
Yes, in goal. Yeah. It's a really strange game.
Off by the Trump cover. Is it strange but good, or is it strange but rubbish?
It's strange and a bit rubbish, to be honest with you. But there was also what have I got? Buster Bust Loose as well, which is the Tiny Toons game. Oh, it's a fantastic little platform on that as well. So my friends used to have all these games, so I would be going around their houses playing, or mostly watching them play these games, and then being past the controller, and I have no idea what I'm doing. And I think that's why my hatred for Street Fighter 2 comes in, because unless you get the time to sit there and actually play the game and learn the moves, just watching your mates play for 5 minutes, say, "Oh yeah, you'll go now. Okay, yeah, what do I do? What are the buttons?" And all of a sudden, bang, 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 gone. Oh, okay, there we go. And that's my downfall with it.
I gravitate back to 3 kind of characters. Obviously, the Ryu, the Ken, a bit of Chun-Li, and again, I don't know, maybe it's that kind of part of life where my brain was a bit more active, but I could still, now I could go back to the arcade, and I did last week, just up the road, and the moves just kind of come back to you, and it's like, no way am I as good as I used to. I used to be able to do dragon punches on bloody command. But a lot of it did stick with me, and I still really, enjoyed it. Really good game.
That's interesting, because you think over time that you forget to do something, but it's the old adage, and it's like you never forget. You fall off a bike, you never forget how to ride a bike, do you? You can get back on it, and it comes back to you instantly. So sitting down and playing something years later, 30 years later now, because it'll be nearly 90s Street Fighter 2 in the arcades, and all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, you're back where you were. It all comes flooding back to you.
Yeah, but even Master System, doing this Master System challenge, I had not played Shinobi for a long, long time. Yet the positioning of the enemies, some of the strategies, it comes back to you just before the enemy pops up on screen. You're like, I think I know where I should be. Very uncanny. Yeah, I can't remember half of what I did. Not even last week, yesterday, exactly. Or this morning. Where am I? It's very weird. But again, maybe it's just my brain.
Yeah, it happens to us all. I mean, it is just one of those very strange things where you just all of a sudden sit down and something you haven't done for ages. Oh yeah, I remember how to do this. I did it with something a couple of weeks ago. I thought, I can't remember what it was doing now. I remember doing something I thought, what do I do here? And all of a sudden I thought, hang on a second, if I do that, it wasn't even gaming related, it was something else. I thought, if I did that, oh yeah, there we go. That's how it works. Bizarre, really bizarre, really bizarre. Okay, so we're about halfway through your gaming history so far, which is with the Super Nintendo. Right, so what happens after that then?
So after that, I think I was in the Super Nintendo for a while, then went to uni and kind of left. I did have a Game Boy, which I took to uni. I've genuinely never been without the Game Boy. Still got my original Game Boy. Oddly, my wife, who apart from, I think, the Game Boy, she's never massively been into other games. She's still got hers, and I've kind of kept that throughout the history. So wherever I go, I've got this blooming Game Boy with me. So I took that, and fortunately, on the second year of uni, when you get booted out the halls of residence because you've been too rowdy and you've created a bit of chaos, 7 rebellious or 6 other fellow students, we basically found this big old house, kind of moved in. It was like, okay, we need a telly, and it was kind of the radio rentals kind of equivalent in Reading. We went to, got the telly, and the N64 was just on, let's say, on the horizon. It was kind of there. It was in the shops, and I don't know where we got the bloody money from, probably from Freshers' Week money. So the money didn't all go on booze. We basically went 7 ways on an N64. And it was fantastic. We got Mario Kart. I never played Mario 64 up until about 5 years ago. We never had that. I didn't know anyone else so I missed an obvious classic. But yeah, kind of the karting, GoldenEye, obviously. I mean,
it's a multiplayer game, so isn't it? You said there's 7 of you doing it. You all chipped into a system. You got probably the 2 best multiplayer games on that system there, and you got the 4 ports on the front of the system anyway, ain't you? So it's
So even with the quadrants of on a, I'm trying to think, it was quite, for those times, a 32-inch telly, which we weighed about as much as a bus. It was probably as big a telly that we were ever going to get, split into 4. It was pretty awesome. And obviously, once you got through the main game, and you got the extras, and there's about 1 million different, challenges to do, and then you unlock, Baron Samedi and Odd Job and the rest of the gang. So we played a hell of a lot of that game, and then this guy, so they were riding a high of N64. And then one day, this guy came back, and he's like, "I've got a couple of really cheap N64 games. They look really awesome." And one of them, I remembered what it was. The other one, I had to look it up, and came back to me. So the first game was a driving game, Automobili Lamborghini. And even
I've heard of it. I've heard of it. I never played it.
Oh man, it's like, and maybe that, I don't know, the rhyming nature of the game's title. This guy should have just chucked. It was, in my opinion, and maybe people out there love it, but in my opinion, it's like a very poor man's Top Gear kind of game with split screen. Obviously, all Lamborghinis is the car of choice. And I was just like, this is just, particularly compared to, obviously, it's a very different type of game. Like Mario Kart, it was just an absolute downgrade. I was like, what the hell? What the hell have you brought back? And then it's okay. I've got another game, and the other game was Dark Rift, which again sounds like some buttock crevice, but it's like. And I thought, this guy on the cover, it looks like it's got promise.
Yeah.
But it's like, again, it's like a poor man's Mortal Kombat. It's like, it was absolutely. And apologies anyone listening that listens to this that loves the game, but I was just like, these games are cheap for a reason. Everything in life is cheap for a particular reason. And so they sat there, they gathered dust, and that was it. And then the other game, he redeemed himself. He came back. It was a while after. Must have more money than us, because I don't think we chipped in after getting the original games. Turok, Dinosaur Hunter.
Oh yes, yeah.
And I remember that being, maybe it's really dated. I'm sure it has dated, particularly graphically, but at the time, we loved that game. Absolutely,
it was very popular, and rave reviews at the time about it. I think I played it. I think a friend of mine had it. We played it briefly, but I don't remember much more about it than that.
It was like a 3D bit of. almost like an outdoors, a weird outdoor version of kind of the Doom type engine. Obviously, larger than life dinosaurs, but they had a bit of a mech filter, so they had some like missiles mounted on top of flying pterodactyls and big T-Rexes and making appearances as you work your way through. But just what I liked about it was the puzzle nature and unlocking stuff and getting keys to get to different zones, and it took a bit of thinking. It wasn't that straightforward to master that. And then in parallel, you've got all these baddies and these big ugly dinosaurs, literally breathing fire in your direction and trying to claw you to bits. We really like that game.
Yeah. It was. I think because of probably about 3 years, but you also had Jurassic Park come out, and then the sequel to that one, The Lost World, and then you got this game involving dinosaurs, and that was why I think it was such a big success. I think you're probably right. I think it has dated quite a lot since then.
And they did a sequel as well. Yeah, there's a sequel, which weirdly...
Seeds of Evil. Is it Seeds of Evil?
Yeah, Dark Seeds or Seeds of Evil, yeah.
Seeds of Evil, I think, yeah, something like
that. I haven't played it, but it was up the road at a very reasonable price. And I thought maybe this will kind of, provoke some memories of days of old. So, yeah, that was a good game. But most of the time was, GoldenEye and, let's say, the running around with the golden gun or Baron Samedi, giving some of the Baron Samedi treatment.
Yeah.
Was absolutely brilliant. I think we did more of that and watching TV and movies, and at the time, what were maybe they still are, some cult classic TV bits. Did more of that than the studying. But it was fun.
It sounds like a great time, doesn't it? It really does. If you ever had that experience in your life, it wasn't quite as good as yours, but I had some very happy memories of my time, doing a bit of gaming at uni as well. And I had a Mega Drive at university, so I was obviously playing on that. And and the N64 as well. So my friends had N64s, and we would do exactly what you did: play Mario Kart and GoldenEye non-stop. And but like you as well, you said you didn't play Mario 64 until 5 years ago. I always looked at that game and thought, I'd really actually sit down and like to play this on my own for a bit. I don't want to sit here and play multiplayer Mario Kart with everybody all the time and multiplayer GoldenEye. I want to sit down and play Mario 64. I want to sit down and play Pilot Wing 64, or for anyone had Shadows of the Empire.
Okay.
I mean, the opening sequence in that game is, by far and away the best thing in the game. It's brilliant. Absolutely fantastic. Rogue Leader is a fantastic game as well.
Yeah.
Was it Rogue Squadron? I can't remember. Rogue Squadron, I think.
It's a couple of the GameCube. There's a couple of Rogue Squadron ones, aren't there?
Yeah. But other than the N64 ones are really good as well. And the Star Wars Episode 1 Racer, which is a cracking racing game. Absolutely cracking. And there's F-Zero on it as well, and the Extreme G racing games are very good on it as well. So it's a great. It's great little system.
Never tried them.
Have you not? Oh, definitely worthwhile picking those up. They're incredibly fast. They really are. I like racing games with a real bit of speed to them, and both Episode 1 Racer and Extreme G and F-Zero too. Same F-Zero X, I think it was on the N64.
Yeah.
Really quick racing games. I love those. Absolutely fantastic. It's a great little system. A lot of people don't like it, but I will give it a pass. I think it's a good one. It's one of the first ones I picked up when I started collecting retro gaming systems that I didn't have, as we talked about at the very start. So it's one of the very few at the top of my list. So
but even I know many a debate has been had about the controller, but I never had any issues with it. Kind of sat quite naturally, and I don't know. There's better controllers, there's your worst controllers, but it never, particularly at the time, it didn't stand out. I don't remember anyone. Maybe again, my memory may fail me, but I don't remember anyone saying, "What the hell have Nintendo brought out?" The SNES one was, SNES fantastic, and then they brought this out for the end. It's an absolute, diabolical thing. It's now seems to be looking back. People seem to have very strong views of it, but at the time, we just cracked on with, loving a GoldenEye.
It's one of those you could put 20 people in a room and say, right, N64 controller, and you'd have 10 people on one side, you'd have 10 people on the other side. There'd be nobody sat in the middle between the two. You'd have everybody saying, 10 people over saying, "Oh, it's the greatest controller ever made," and you have 10 people over here saying it's a complete waste of time. So it splits people like that. There's no middle ground. It's like, well, no one says, well, it's all right. No one ever says that. It's either I like it or I don't like it. It's one of them. It just splits people right down the middle.
But I think sometimes I kind of treat the controller as part of the, goes with the console. So, perhaps certain games may play better on certain consoles with more of a modern, controller. But to me, there's that nostalgia when we do the Master System Challenge. If I've got the game, then, I'll be playing it, on the Master System controller. I could get one of the retro, whatever they're called, retro bit jobbies, shoot them up. So I could probably, make life a bit easier for me, or on the NES do something similar. But playing Super Mario Brothers with that original rectangular, very sharp looking control, can't. It's part of the nostalgia as well as the playability. So in that sense, N64 without that controller isn't really for me the N64.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's a good point. I mean, you could try playing your Master System games with the old Master System joystick. You've got that one, have you?
No, I did back in the day.
Yeah, I've always wanted because I love the look of it. It looks like a car. It looks like a gear stick from an old car because it's a giant. And Claire bought me one for my birthday a couple of years ago, I think it was. And it's not quite the same as using as a joypad, but then I was brought up using joysticks with computers, so it was difficult for me to get used to the whole concept of a joypad. Like, what the hell is this sort of thing? And now I try and play games with a joystick. It's like I've got like two left hands or something. It's just really
it's left-handed though, isn't it? Is the buttons over your left hand? You got to. I was let down twice by the Master System, and that was one of the occasions. And the other occasion was, and I picked it, Vigilante. I can't get on with that game. Cannot, and maybe it's because I played Shinobi before, and I thought this game's going to be awesome, and I was this is like a backwards step, almost a bit of, and it's not, obviously it's a classic game, but it reminded me more of, say, like Kung Fu, the original, you left, right, you got to bash the enemies down, but didn't have that depth that, say, Shinobi had. But I was a little, maybe a bit mediocre, I thought, but I was more disappointed by the control pad because it looks quite good. But,
it's not uncommon. Is Vigilante? You don't see it a great deal. I'd like to get hold of a copy of that one. No, I've seen maybe 2 or 3 copies, and they've all been in pretty rough condition, to be honest. So
I need to check. I think I still haven't got my original, but pretty sure, I've got it. But it sounds awful, but really for nostalgia, I don't want to play the bloody thing. I just look at it
and think, that's a terrible game. Yeah, well, what have I bought that for? Yeah.
And I opened up the manual. I was looking through the manual and like, look, are there any clues in this manual that really show how not good? How was I tricked by this tomfoolery? But I think it's only if Shinobi hadn't been in place, I probably would have picked it up and I would have loved it. Maybe I'm being a bit unfair on it, but it wasn't. Yeah, wrong place, wrong time for me, I think.
It happens, you tend to find that, and then people get on with it, you don't, and then you never ever get on with it at all. And as you said, wrong place, wrong time. Other difference, or you played it first rather than Shinobi, then it might have been a different story. But there we go.
Yeah, definitely. And even we had the N64 at uni, but a lot of other people had the PlayStation 1, so I had a bit of a foray into that. Never owned a kind of PS1 at that point. So that was mainly it was mainly kind of FIFA and a handful of other games. But no, obviously interesting times for gaming, but obviously a bit cash strapped. So certain systems or bits, you really had to choose what game you wanted to invest in. But
That's right.
Good days.
Yeah. Okay, so from the N64, next system on your list, bit of a jump forward into the disc generation now.
Yeah, so we then moved on to the PlayStation 2. So I got this. I hadn't long. I've done like a temping job. I was fresh from uni. bit I don't know, sobered up in more ways than one. One of them being that I think I came back and say it was on like the Monday I came back from uni, but the Tuesday morning my mum was like, right, you need to go and get a job. So she kicked me out. I went to the temping agency and kind of got a job and kind of moved forward. And then there's a few people there. There's was a similar kind of age, but loads of the guys, mainly the guys were into gaming, and the PS2 was coming up. So when was that? Year 2000, early 2000s, and a few of us were like, right, we're going to have to get this new console. Most of the other guys had a PS1. I'd played on one, but it was more in the ways of the Nintendo. But yeah, kind of got this thing, and then came back when I still love the game, but yeah, a bit of a classic, Grand Theft Auto 3.
Oh yeah.
And that, I mean, everything about that. I think we'd just moved out as well, so I had a bit of independence with my now wife, and I think I just locked myself away in front of the telly just playing this game, and she probably thought I turned into a crim, a bit of an underworld character. So what the heck are you doing? This isn't Mario. This isn't kind of what I'm used to. The fluffiness of Nintendo. This looks a bit bloody brutal, which it was. But I mean, the graphics, the music as well. So like you say, through CD, the ability to be able to put on some, change your radio station and have some awesome soundtracks at the same time as you busting a cap, shooting a weapon or two, doing a mission.
Busting a cap.
Busting a cap.
You've got all the terminology. She was right, she was right.
Yeah, they're all tragic, isn't it? I spent, trying to think of other games I got. For that, the same time. Grand Theft Auto, I think, consumed the vast majority of my time. Perhaps over the other GTA, maybe Gran Turismo. I think that was on there, but I'll be honest. Like I enjoyed it, but more, I don't know, quickly than not. Maybe through work and other things, and in a geeky way, some of my Star Wars and retro toy related interests started to kick back in, and with limited money, wasn't paying a mortgage, I was paying like a rent. So didn't have that much money kind of left over. So yeah, I played it for a little bit, but within, I think I had it about a year and a bit, and then I kind of sold it off. I sold it to a mate. Perhaps for like most things, I kind of regret doing that now, but inevitably you kind of, you normally sell things when you want to buy something else and move up, unless you've got like complete surplus of cash.
That's right. So what did you upgrade to then?
So when the N64 to the Sony, and then onto the Microsoft, so the Xbox.
Oh, the original one.
Yes, the original, the OG, whatever it's called, just the Xbox.
Yes, just the Xbox.
Just the Xbox.
That's another conversation in itself. We're not going to get into that
one. But yeah, I loved it. I think it was for the console that got me. I'm trying to think if there's any multiplayer online games that happened prior, because I mean, like I remember some Tom Clancy games, Ghost Recon being one. Sure, I had the headset. Sure, I was getting really geeky with people around the world, and my really awful broadband was letting me down, as opposed to my gameplay. This is my excuse.
This would have been Xbox Live, wouldn't it?
It was
completely revolutionary. That wasn't it? The whole concept of playing online rather than playing with people in your living room. You're actually playing with people around the world.
Very strange, and not that I've ever been. I think I'm one now. I'm not like an extrovert kind of character, and I did find it a bit in a weird way, a bit like overwhelming, because like you say, you're used to getting a bit competitive, perhaps a little bit Larry after a few drinks, and Larry gaming competitive with your mates. You're then playing strangers in a warfield or whatever around the world. Some of them you kind of think, am I being, maybe like a 10-year-old is absolutely kind of whopping my ass at this game. It was all a bit strange, but and I'm sure, I mean, the network adapter, there's a lot of add-ons I do remember, and obviously the game set, and God knows how I was playing for my internet at the time. I was probably paying like a blooming fortune to play those games, but I loved them.
Yeah,
I really did. And I wasn't kind of the John Rambo in your face up for close combat. I was the cowardly, let's grab the sniper rifle, stay to the back and just pick people off. And it might be my 2020 not my bad kind of vision, but I was just like, this is the way to do it, because I quickly explored the John Rambo style, and I got taken to pieces. And In the same way, in the real world, I did paintball once, just the once, and I got taken to pieces, and that hurt. So
Literally.
I went for the John Rambo it bruised, all the rest in absolute pain. So the first mission or whatever, I was front of the pack. Second mission, I was right at the back. I'll cover the base and all that stuff. And unfortunately, or fortunately, it did help my score. That kind of sentiment linked into how I played some of these games. But I think most of it's probably a real shame because I'm sure I missed out on a lot of titles, but a lot of the Xbox games I played were those kind of first-person shooters. So I had Halo, loved that to bits, but a lot of FPS type games.
I was amazed when I started collecting for Xbox that there were so many first-person shooters out there. You mentioned the Tom Clancy games. There's Black as well, which was on that system. The Full Spectrum Warrior games. There was a couple of American Soldier type ones as well. So when I started going through, I thought there's an awful lot of these games. The Call of Duty games came out on Xbox, of course, as well. There's an awful lot of them, and I thought there must be more to this system than just FPS games. And there is. I mean, I agree. I love the Xbox. I've still got my original one from when I first got it, and it's great. I think it's really good. And one of my favourite systems ever, I think.
Yeah, I need to through getting a more modern Xbox and obviously this whole backward compatibility thing, and I know fairly recently that more games are compatible for it. But I have been going back through and grabbing some of those older games or some of those games which perhaps I should have, or I definitely should have given a bit more respect to, back in the day. But one which obviously not a shooter, which I loved, were Knights of the Old Republic. I did have that.
Yeah, that was
I rebought that recently. And that's getting remade, isn't it?
That's right.
But that's on the shelf, ready to re-explore. But that was incredible.
Oh, it was.
I mean, I've mentioned it a few times before, but I'm an absolute Star Wars, buff, and a lot of prior to that, with a few, maybe a couple of exceptions, a lot of the Star Wars games generally are just really hard, really difficult. Even like the early NES, Star Wars, some of the SNES ones, I can just get.
The SNES ones. The SNES ones are renowned for being absolutely ridiculously difficult.
Yeah,
which is a shame because they are. If you look at those games on that system, brilliantly done. Sonically and visually, they're excellent games, but they are so hard. They really are difficult.
Yeah, and I've been trying to go back recently and pick them up, but they're even Kart only. They're still quite, unless I'm looking in the wrong places, they're expensive games. Well, not
they are
expensive, but about 25, 30 quid a Kart for some of them.
The Star Wars games, I got Super Star Wars, which I think I paid 20 quid for. I think it was boxed.
Okay.
Yeah. It was a cracking price. But then I was quoted 40 quid a few months ago for Return of the Jedi, which was boxed. And I thought, that's a bit steep. Hang on a second, we're going up in the world here. So I'd like to get all three. I've not got massive memories on them, but I'd like all three of those boxed if I can get them. But it's going to cost me the best part of, I'm guessing probably 70, 80 quid to get hold of a reasonably conditioned boxed one. I think my Star Wars has got instructions with that. I'm pretty sure it has, because I wouldn't have paid that much for it, I don't think.
Yeah, nice to have the trilogy though, wouldn't it? Or the best trilogy.
That's what I would like. Yeah, that's what I would like to do. So one day, yes, possibly. I'd fork out for that, but not right now. I think that's a bit steep for something that I'll just sit on the shelf for a bit.
But no, Knights of the Old Republic was just phenomenal kind of game, and you could bounce between Jedi to kind of dark side of the Force, and just two. I mean, I'm not massively into kind of RPG games, but it was, for me, obviously it ticked the Star Wars box, but it was just that right degree of RPG to get me kind of excited. But I do want to go back and play that. I did pick it up coincidentally. I think it was like a few days after the remake got announced. I was up in like London at like a CX, and it's gone up now, but it was a fairly cheapish price. It wasn't like I can't remember what it is. It wasn't a classic. It was like the original. So I was like, pick that up. Look forward to playing that one again.
And again, the Xbox is one of those systems that, again, over the years has gradually started to increase in value in some of the games. Because when I started, I always started doing this. When I started collecting, about 3 years ago, I think it was 3-4 years ago. Now I picked up a backup Xbox for £3 with no leads or anything like that. It was sold as seen, and it works absolutely fine.
Yeah,
so it was an absolute bloody bargain, that was. And I thought, well, you know what, it's not a bad system, this one. And I'm going to CEX, and you see games that are like, well, these are like really cheap. You can get loads of games with like a couple of £3, and I thought, fantastic, I'll start collecting this. And then Retro Gamer magazine did a feature on the Xbox and how it was like a great system to collect for. Look at all these great games you can get for under £3. Oh yeah, that was it. All those games that were under £3 all of a sudden started creeping up in price, and all the more expensive ones started creeping up in price. Then you had backwards compatibility, so games started not creeping up, shooting up in price. So
yeah. I can't remember who it was. Is it Paul in Northern? I was talking about. Was it one of the Ridge Racer games? Was it Ridge Racer 6 or something?
That's on the 360. That one's rapidly increasing because it's gone backwards compatible.
Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of just nudged it from an okayish price to a seemingly ridiculous price. But it's
two that I think spring to mind. Well, one was Indiana Jones and the Emperor's Tomb, which went from being a £1 to £1.50 game to a £12 to £15 game because it was backwards compatible. And the other, I think, was a game called Armed and Dangerous, which I think went from being a couple of quid to about £15. So it just happens like that. And there are other games on this stubs, the Zombie, which I think is about a £30 to £40 game on the Xbox. That one, I think Nath Retro picked up recently for about pennies or something like that. Something I know recently picked up for absolutely nothing. So
still the odd bargain out there, aren't there? If you kind of look, they're harder to find, and it's obviously a bit of a kick in the face when you have seen prices that cheap. Albeit I can't remember what game it was. I've got a 3DS game, part of my silly 3DS collecting thing. Came through yesterday, and it had, I think it was like 39. It's like a 40 quid 3DS game. So some kind of puzzle one, and it's the original price. It's not like it's just crazy how things have gone, and it does. I mean, for YouTube as well, whenever a big, particularly a US YouTuber does their top 5, inevitably, on eBay just goes crazy, and you think, oh, blooming heck. But it depends how you look at it. I mean, on the toy side, I always used to look at my Star Wars collection and think, well, I've got most of the original, not the vehicles. I've got probably all of the original characters now, like the figures, not all like box, but each of the main characters. And for me, I'm thinking, well, it's gone up from whatever to whatever. That's cool, but if you're never going to sell it, which I like to think I won't do, certainly in my lifetime, whatever my son does or other kids do.
Yeah.
My wife, we'll see, but I'm not really going to benefit from that increase. However, if I wanted to get the remaining vehicles, or with say some of the gaming collection, some of those other games, I'm in for a real tough ride. And is it worth it? Is it worth it enough? And but fortunately, aside from the 3DS, I don't do like full set collecting. I don't even know why I'm doing this crazy 3DS thing. All I know is I'm fairly close now, so I just need to finish it off. Otherwise, the OCD part of me will destroy me. I think that's what it comes down to.
It's funny how you fall into these things.
He says,
look behind me. Look behind me. Yeah. But that started because they were cheap, and and a lot of them still aren't. Even though I've got this massive collection behind me, the price of Wii games the cheap ones don't seem to increase that much, but some of them do. It's the same with every system. Some games you'll get a bargain for. I mean, some games I will pay. I've paid sort of like £2-3 retail. When I say retail, I mean I bought it from CEX or Game when they were selling them second hand. I've got a copy of Sin and Punishment on there, which I think I paid £4.99 for in Game, probably about 4 or 5 years ago. It's a £40 game now.
Yeah. Wow.
And that's a lucky one. So not all of them go like that. Some of them I bought for 50p are still £1. But I've doubled my money, so I ain't bothered about that really.
Yeah.
That's what you can do.
I'm quite into again, it probably originates more from the Star Wars side. I found a fair bit, a bit of success in getting stuff for decent prices at auctions. And I'm not talking about, Sotheby's or crazy big auctions, more kind of local stuff. And through the internet and a few, sites, there's one in particular which kind of aggregates a lot of the auction houses around the UK. And It's a bit like, I don't know, say you go to like a games event and someone's selling toys. The toys are probably going to be quite good value. And in reverse, if you go to a toy event and there's someone in the corner, they might have some Saturn games and they could actually be quite a steal.
Yeah.
Same thing happens with these online auctions. And a couple of years ago, I picked up 2 lots of, I'd say 3DS games. There's a few DS ones in there, but we're talking between both of them, probably about 150 games, good price. And I was thinking, this is quite a dent into 3DS territory. It's not for DS. I think there's about 2,500.
Yeah, there's a lot of those. Yeah.
And 3DS, it's still a bit of a question mark because I've looked and I've joined all the blooming Facebook groups and I've looked across the various parts of the internet. I cannot find a definitive kind of UK list. There's global lists, there's US lists. So it was a bit of a painful task, but I basically took the global list and I kind of excluded and recut and investigated. And I believe, I don't know, I can't remember the exact blooming number, but it's about 450 odd, between 450 and 460.
Right.
And every now and again, I'll have a bit of a surge and I think I'm just going to go, because lots of them, most of them are cheap and cheerful. The exceptions are RPGs and, Atlas games, and there's some, and they can command a fair bit of money. But that aside, the games are fairly straightforward. So I'll go through these bursts when I'm not doing Master System collecting or GameCube or other bits. And probably about 4 months ago, I was like, I need to sit down and work out what I've got. And the downside of having stuff everywhere is that, for me anyway, having that inventory that's reliable, and I don't go into a bloody game shop and buy a game I've already got, which happens a lot, or go on eBay. You've got a few seconds. I haven't got time to check. It's not, it's not that much money. Let's go for it. Crap, I've got a double. So I had a bit of time, like a day off work, a long weekend. I need to sort this out. And I realized I wasn't that far away.
Oh, right. Yeah.
I say it wasn't that far, about 100 odd. And in the last couple of, I'm now down to just under 50.
So you're not far away at all, then, really. Yeah,
and they're not, fortunately, and it's correct, within the big bundles, a lot of the RPGs were sitting there. In the disaster situation, this is going to be a real complex decision. It's a silly decision, but the most expensive game remaining on my list is about probably 100 times more than any of the other games in value, and it's a bloody Barbie game.
Ah, well, they always are. They always are.
Always the case. And it was released on the 2DS. I think it's the same frigging game for the 3DS.
Yeah.
Very limited, obviously, very limited numbers. And at the moment, not that it's selling, and it's hard to get any history on sold, but there's about 3 on eBay. One's 300 quid and the other's about 400.
Ah.
So it could be the game I never have, and I'll be fine with that. I'm not paying that much money, but it's one of those things that kind of will put my mind at a bit of a test. But it's like, where does it stop? Say someone posted it for 100. Am I paying 100 for a Barbie game? It's a real collector versus gamer conundrum, and I don't like it. I'm not loving that.
Well, I mean, you mentioned auctions. I saw one a couple of 3 weeks ago. I'm absolutely kicking myself about it. It was a lot of PlayStation 1 games, and it must have been about 80 to 100 in there. And was it PlayStation 1 and PlayStation 2? Oh, it was PlayStation 1, I think it was. And I'm not joking. The game, they've got all the Resident Evil games in there, so all the Black Label ones in there. They've got all the Dino Crisis games in there, and the amount of money it went for, just on those 2 series alone, if you'd sold those games separately, you would have made your money back and got 90 odd games for basically nothing. And I was thinking, how did I miss that? And there was a sign of PlayStation 2 like that came out again. The Resident Evil ones were in there. I was going to think, these are pretty expensive games. They're like 15, 20, 30 quid each, these are. And what did the lot go for? It's like, bloody hell. How do you miss something like that? It was like about 100 PlayStation 4 games. And I think they went for the equivalent of about £1.50 a game. It's like, so I'm like, so
it's got to be done. Those auctions are really, a lot of my stuff, probably more my toys, and like apart from the exception is the 3DS. Not just my toys, like a lot of my film related stuff is via auction, and you can pick. And maybe it's because, well, it's a big kind of secret. I don't think it gets that many eyes on some of these things. People focus on eBay and the more the mainstream ways of buying stuff. But for me, that's a very week in, week out. I'll still see what's coming up. I won't be doing bids week in, week out. It might just be once every quarter, once every 3 months. But I'll keep my eye on what's coming up. But some comics. Star Wars stuff. Got like a really verging a little bit slightly off topic, very, very quickly. But Star Wars, there was like a press pack for Empire Strikes Back that was literally handed out to the press as they went into the premiere. Leicester Square. You can't find that on eBay. And I can't remember the name of the actor, but it was the guy who basically was the commander in the Empire Strikes Back in General Veers in the AT-AT, in Hoth, the snowy and he was also the baddie in one of the Indiana Jones films. Can't remember which one. He basically sold his collection of bits and bobs, and there was stuff he sold. His kind of leather jacket, whatever the one of the good Indiana Jones films, wasn't one of the more recent ones. I haven't been too harsh there, but his kind of enemy's outfit and the Nazi badge and so those things you can't find anywhere else. But people think they're going to go for like tens of thousands or whatever. But one time I spent 70 quid on a Star Wars lot that filled a massive dining room table. It was like a mountain of stuff. And it did have the game in there. Had the ZX Spectrum Star Wars one, which I'd had from back in the day.
Yeah.
So I've got it. I'm tested whether or not this new one works, but loads of stuff. And I think just a couple of the books which I already had, which do command a fair bit of cash. Selling them, I've recouped my money. So it's around, I guess, going in for a bulk at a decent price, but then from that obtaining things that you really, really, you really want.
I mean, just to, I went on a bit of a tangent, but same thing as well. It's again, you said, always will be worth tens of thousands of pounds, and you're not going to bid on it. But again, this same auction place I was watching, the old Doctor Who series, not the new one, the old original one. There used to be a lot of like novelizations of these called the Target books, which is basically a paperback of mostly written by a guy called Terence Dicks, who's no longer with us. And there was a lot of these Target books in the same auction, and they put an estimate of 40 to 60 quid on it. Do you know what it went for? £1,300.
I don't know, a few hundred going into 1,000.
1,300.
Yeah,
and I'd estimated, up to about 40 to 60 quid for a lot of them. I couldn't believe it. I was like, because I used to read those all the time when I was a kid and getting out of the library. So I didn't realise they were
school library. I think our school library stocked them. In the corner.
But I know they're quite collectible. I didn't realise they were that collectible. So, and then I'm looking at the stuff the other end of the auction, thinking, how's all those PlayStation 1 games gone for that price with all those games in there? I don't understand it. I thought. Yeah. So I remember. Because I was thinking, I'm going to get into the habit of doing that, and then you realise you miss bargains like that. Anyway, it's one of them, isn't it? So, speaking about expensive systems to collect for after the Xbox, this one's a real cracker because the prices never drop on this system at all, ever.
So my next system, after the Xbox, I jumped in, and I got to say, again, maybe I've got more. I don't want to be offending any Sega fans because there's definitely some Sega in my blood. But getting Nintendo back was really, really cool. And
it's the GameCube,
So the GameCube. Definitely, I'm trying to remember what games I had when I first picked it up. I'm sure Luigi's Mansion was in there. The first time that I'd come across Rocky, because I think I'd missed that on the Master System. Obviously, a bit of a different version, but Rocky on the GameCube, I still love that game. I rebought it, not that long ago, but a couple of years back.
And there's two Rocky games, aren't there? There's two. There's Rocky and there's Rocky Legends, I think.
I've got the just the Rocky one.
Yeah, I think I've got Legends on the Xbox.
Yeah,
and I've got that's the one. Yeah, you showed me a copy of Rocky on. I've got that one as well. I think I've got both of them on. I can't see because my PlayStation 2 collection of Schoolboy Door at the moment.
Is the other one any good then? Because this one, I love it. It's just
Yeah.
maybe I do love Rocky and all that stuff, but
Mm.
I can't what the button. Maybe it's one of the it's like a jab button, a cheeky, and then you do the go into the uppercut. Just really playable, but not too arcadey, but not too realistic. Just and it's Rocky, and it's it's
that's Miss Clubber Lang.
That's it, Clubber Lang.
Yeah.
Tommy the Machine Gun, who I hated him in the film. Not a big fan of the film, so to clobber him in the
how dare you destroy the franchise? Yeah.
Exactly.
Tommy Morrison, the boxer, of course, was Tommy Gunn. That was it. He was a real life boxer, wasn't he? I'll try and remember what Legends was. I'm not sure whether Legends is one of those games where was there a story mode on Rocky? I'm trying to remember.
I think it was. And then you did
you start
build up your skills and your stamina, and you start off at the local boxing halls, and obviously you progress, and ultimately you get to Vegas or Russia, depending on who you're fighting.
I think Legends is more to do with the actual boxers in the films as opposed to doing the storyline. But it's been ages since I played it. I could be wrong. Somebody may know. They'll let us know in the comments anyway. Sort of sitting there screaming in the bath. You don't know what you're talking about, like they usually do. No,
that was really good. And even now going back to it, love that. Resident Evil 4 again, kind of fan. I've played it in a few different flavors since, but I think I'll always go back to the to get it on the Switch. Download not that long ago. I don't really know why I bothered, because it I liked it just as much on the GameCube. And then a couple of was it Rogue Leader?
Yeah. That was a launch title, wasn't it?
Yeah, Rogue Leader. Rebel Strike was the other one I was trying to think of before. It's again in recent years, it's probably one of the consoles I've been certainly not going for full set or anything, but going for games that I had just looking up, like a Metroid Prime. I loved that when that came out, and it was very different from all of the other Metroid games. It's kind of the 3D nature. Simpsons Hit and Run. Really good. But more recent, again through YouTube, people have been saying, have you played this game? I was like, I never played that back in the day. I'll jump in it. Like in Halloween time, people were talking about Eternal Darkness.
Yes.
Never played it. It's a bloody classic. It's criminal you haven't played it, and there's games like that. But unfortunately, when some of the, which I haven't picked, some of the the megally expensive ones are, you pay through the nose.
Exactly that. I'm lucky that I've only got about 50 games, I think, altogether for the GameCube. I had a system originally, and I'm lucky enough to have some of those. The Mario Sunshine, Luigi's Mansion, Mario Kart Double Dash, Doshin the Giant, Mario Party 5, I think it is. So I've got some quite valuable games which I picked up for very, very little years and years ago at Car Boots. But it is a system which you really, unless you've got deep pockets, you don't really want to start collecting for it, because I don't know what it is with this system, but as I mentioned right at the very start, the prices, cheap GameCube games don't exist. If you find a cheap game at a GameCube in a charity shop, you've done very, very well, because they just don't exist. You can't go into CEX or cash converters and buy GameCube games for a couple of quid. They just don't cost that. They cost way more than that. And I've always think it's very strange. I know people talk about Nintendo tax and all that, but here we are nearly 20 years on from the birth of that system, and the games are still commanding a ridiculously high price.
I think I got a few of mine through eBay, but a lot of mine through Facebook groups and it doesn't, through a bit, banter and engagement, you can very quickly pick up, one would like to think, who's a true gaming enthusiast versus someone that's here to make a buck. So I think once you build up some relationships with those people, obviously they're going to want to make some profit, but if they've got spares, if they're kind of upscaling themselves or getting a better version, they're more likely going to send it on to sell it on to you for a more reasonable price than you get scalped for on the likes of eBay, or someone that doesn't know really what they're selling, or they're taking the absolute pee on the likes of marketplace. So a lot of my games I bought through Facebook groups, and I don't know, hopefully I'm not kind of trashing eBay too much, but there are a lot of very good sellers that I will go back to, that I will save down their shops for, certainly save them down as sellers, just to see what's coming up, and have built up a good relationship. And particularly on the Master System, probably 2 or 3 guys that have been so helpful in saying, look, I've got this, and actually, some fairly overall value, a fairly chunky amount of money, but for a lot of games, they're adding bits in, and it's like there's always economies of scale with all these things. But I do think, I'm saying the obvious, but you build up a good relationship with someone, being a local shopkeeper, an independent bod, or someone on an online site, you're going to get a more favorable deal, as long as they're not losing money. They need to be making something. If it's a win-win, you can walk away a lot better than paying a silly amount on a buy it now game on eBay, which is just people going absolutely crazy. Master System, GameCube. If you I don't know why I do it, a bit of a masochist in me, but I kind of load up, say, Master System, I resort eBay so it's highest value, and I think, what are the idiots posting now? You're like, really? That's not going to sell. And I don't know if they're just trying to draw people in, so they then look at their other items, which could be more economically it could be better value. Maybe it's a ploy, and I'm just a marketing idiot. But I don't get this.
Yeah.
And it's annoying when there's good games that I haven't, good games you haven't got that you want, and you think, am I ever really going to be able to get that game?
It's the one where they stick them in bundles. You can see them. You mentioned, we'll go back to the Mass System again. I've seen it with Mass System bundles. I've been looking at those, and you'll see a bundle, and then you'll look at the game, and you go, well, I've got that one. There's about 6 games, and there's 2 in there that you need, but the 4 you don't need. 4 very, very common generic titles which have got no value whatsoever, and therefore, if you pay the price they're asking, you're paying over the odds for the 2 games that you want, and you're not going to be able to make enough back on the other ones to be able to make the cost effective. But the only way you're going to buy those 2 games is if you have to buy the other 4 at the same time, and that's why I shy away from stuff like that, because it's the same with Wii games. Well, probably what I should have done was bought loads of bundles. I didn't, but now I look at bundles on eBay, and I can go through, well, there's 5 or 6 games there I haven't got, but it's not worth buying all those, because the other games that I don't need, I'm not going to be able to move those on, because obviously this person didn't be able to move on. That's why I stuck those 5 games in there to try and shift those with that lot. It's a seller's market at the moment, really.
Yeah, definitely.
Market, it's sort of changed a bit, but hey, swings and roundabouts will come round again at some point when everything crashes. People will wait to get rid of all that, and I'll be going, that's fine. I don't mind. I don't mind.
It's my. I'm not a blaming stockbroker or anything quite like it, but I kind of supported people that have kind of been in that game, and I think crashes only happened for like big old markets. The IT bubble was a big old market. It's underpinned by the economy and interest rates and stuff. We're talking about, like we said earlier, something that's fairly niche. It's fairly narrow set of individuals if I knew the future, I'd be a billionaire, which I'm obviously not. You can see what's around me, Russ. So I'm probably wrong, but if I was a betting man, and I really don't bet, I'd say, like most things, like it's going to go up, it's going to go down. Is it really going to crash? Maybe there'll be, when there's that generational shift, it's going to get a bit morbid, but when the next generation take over and their retro games are front and center, they'll rise then. Will our games ever go down to zilch? I don't think they necessarily will, based on other, and it's not game related, but if I look at toys, if I look at film related stuff, if I look at posters, Coca-Cola signs, cars, stuff that is older than people's age, that isn't necessarily stuff that they experience as a child or even as a young adult, can be worth a lot, a fair bit of money. So I don't, in my opinion, it's not going to crack. We're going to go, there's going to be ups and downs, and I don't think on one day we're going to wake up, or 1 month, but unfortunately for the people that do need certain games, we're going to wake up and everything's really, really bottomed out. But I'm probably going to be wrong, because whenever I invest in something, inevitably it goes a bit pear-shaped.
It's a really good point, and I was likened this to sort of antiques of the future, because if you look at something like, I'm not sure I watch it on a regular basis, but the Antiques Roadshow, and you'll hear them say occasionally, oh, well, the market's changed over the last few years for this particular item, some piece of furniture. This 10 years ago was quite collectible, but now people aren't collecting it, so the value's dropped. I think probably what you will find is that's going to happen with this sort of markets of people at some point will say in the future, oh, well, 10 years ago, you probably would have been able to sell this collection for this much, but over the years, it's lost a bit of value, so it's only worth this much. I think that's what will happen. I don't think it'll completely drop out altogether. There will still be those really expensive games that will stay at that point, and the cheap stuff will just be worth what it is, what someone's prepared to pay for at the end of the day. It's where that middle stuff's going to be. There's an awful lot of stuff in the middle. So you got the cheap stuff and the expensive, that little bit in the middle where that's going to end up and down, up and down. Is it going to shift up? Is it going to shift down? It's, I mean, we're recording this today. I read earlier that the guy who designed the NES and the Super Nintendo passed away today.
Okay.
So whether there's going to be, because he's now no longer alive, whether that iconic design is going to be worth a little bit more, possibly, I don't know. I could be talking complete crap. It's one of those, but
it's driven by lots of things. Like, how many, the more people that know about that, the more it's in our kind of, again, a bit of a niche media. I think it will draw some attention. It's a bit of a trigger, isn't it, to say, I haven't got those games in my collection. I might have a look. So it might prompt you to take a look. Then loads of other people, and it's a bit of a snowball thing.
We mentioned Ridge Racer 6 earlier. Now we know, because that's gone backwards compatible, that's now going to start getting more and more expensive. But a lot of those backwards compatible games that went expensive have gone back cheap again now. Okay. When Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 on the 360 went backwards compatible, that went from being like a £2 game to an £18 game overnight. Has now dropped back right down again. But there was a period in time where people were like taking all their copies down to CEX and cashing them in because all of a sudden they were worth a lot of money. You could get £10 trading for it, whereas a few weeks ago you probably got you might have got 3 if you were lucky.
Yeah.
So everyone going to charity shops, finding all these games that are in the charity shops because nobody wanted them and cashing them into CEX. That's what happens when the Argos do a sale, or they were doing sales on some of their games. And every £3 games, everyone buys them and takes them to CEX because they're still selling them at 35 quid or 25 quid. And you still have to get £15 a pop on them.
Yeah.
That
annoying. The 3DS piece, you can still see. I mean, the Argos stickers are so obvious, and the amount of Pokemon games for the 3DS that are out there, and people are selling. They probably got them for like you said, 2-3 quid, and they're putting them on for silly money, and they're not rare. It's just it's people taking the pay him for a quick buck.
That's it.
It's a shame.
Okay, well, that's your game. Obviously, we talked about your 3DS collection a little bit earlier, so we sort of covered that bit there as well. So we've still got some games to do on your list, and we've still got the 2 at the end, which is your second chance game and your hated game, which we always finished on. So let's go back to your Desert Island game list, the 5th game on your list then.
Okay.
And this is a handheld game, which is, again, quite unusual. We've had a few on here in the past, but not many.
Okay, so I'll come up straight with it. It's Metroid Fusion even.
Fusion,
Fusion. It's like a local nightclub. Fusion. For the Game Boy Advance, and it's. I think it was. I'm trying to think. I think it was the first Metroid game. I'm trying to think. Was it before or after the Metroid Prime? Between that, certainly hadn't played the NES Metroid. I hadn't played Super Metroid on the SNES. So it's one of probably the first 2D ones. Would be the best way to describe it that I ever played. But in terms of you got the story. It's kind of a bit linear. You go back to the main bit and the ship, and then you shoot around the various kind of levels. But in each level, I mean, they're particularly for the GBA, they're fairly extensive. You've got a pretty badass enemy, the parasite, the SAX that's hunting you down. That at that point is no spoilers is kind of as a replica of yourself, albeit more powerful. So as in all of the Metroid games, you go around, you're powering up, you're getting better weapons, you're getting better suits, for protection, so you can go in hot climates, cold climates. Some big bosses. You think about the small GBA screen. And I recently got the Game Boy Player for the GameCube. So I haven't done it yet, but I want to maybe it'll be too. I don't know if it'll be blocky or whatever. But I can play it on the big screen. But on the advanced, some of these, but they take up most of the screen. The controls. I was playing it on the advanced as opposed to the the fold up SP. With the shoulder buttons are just really kind of intuitive, and albeit there's not that many buttons on the GBA, but it's just a really clean kind of playability. It's absolutely hooked in it, and I replayed it not that long ago, about a year or so ago. I mean, a lot of the lockdown ones or whatever. I was like, right, it was them because I got a new screen, like with I don't know the IPS, like a upgraded backlit GBA screen, IPS something or other. And to be honest, it kind of resurrected my love for the advance. I was like, this is awesome. And obviously, the advance you can pop in Game Boy and Game Boy Color games as well. So I had literally an absolute blooming blast with this game. And off the back of that, I went back to the SNES game, Super Metroid, and then most recently played and completed. It took me forever, Metroid Dread. But apart from, there's some 3D type bits in Metroid Dread, and there is obviously some graphical advancement, but the gameplay on the GBA is still very, very, very slick. Really, really good game. It's just got everything for me in it. But good story, good playability, a bit of blasting, steepish but not Mission Impossible learning curve. Yeah.
I like the GBA full stop. I love it. It's kept me company on camping trips and whatever. And as you said, it can play the Game Boy and Game Boy Color games. It's just fantastic for things like that. But I've never been a handheld gamer, so I had this discussion on our recent. We were talking about on our recent podcast, TMB podcast, about games which we hadn't seen for quite some time and systems. And I said, well, I'm sure we haven't seen a Metroid game for quite some time. And we were thinking about it. We thought, well, probably the ones on the Wii were the last ones. And then somebody piped up there with a 3DS. And of course, I think, I hadn't heard about any of these. So obviously, this one here, I've got no idea at all it exists. So some games may have passed me by. And I know there's loads of games that have passed me by on it. But in Metroid Prime, I used to love playing that. Super Metroid, I played that on emulation, and it's just it's a great game series. I'm really interested to look at this one now and possibly track this down or find somewhere to play. So I always like to say when people come on here, there's going to be a game on there that I'd like to try. And I think of all these on here, this is definitely probably the one I would want to have a go at just to see what it's like. And the Game Boy players I've also got the Super Game Boy for the Super Nintendo, and that's a godsend for me because my eyesight's not the best, getting worse as I get older. So playing something like that on the telly through the Super Nintendo is ideal for me, really. And I had an opportunity to buy a Game Boy player years ago for $5, and I didn't. So
no way, they've gone up a lot since then. I didn't know. You mentioned it when I was talking about the GameCube. It's a really odd thing, and maybe because it wasn't that common over here at all because it wasn't sold over here. But the Japanese orange GameCube. For years I've kind of wanted one, and then earlier this year it's like, you know what, I just need to get off my ass and get one. But I got one that was modded, obviously by someone else. I wouldn't have a clue how to do it, but all regions. I was trying to find like an orange Game Boy player, and I think I did find, but it was silly money from Japan and all that stuff, so I kind of settled on a black Game Boy player, thinking orange and black.
Yeah.
I'm no colour scheme guy. You can see from my only rust and see my decrepit clothes, but orange and black. I thought that will pass the muster test. So
they do. They got quite well together. Yeah, so something along orange and black. I'm trying to think of Dundee United playing orange and black, if I remember correctly. Orange shirts and black shorts. He's done them all right for a few years, so but that'll suit them. That's the only example I could think of there. Sorry, I'm trying to think of a better one. But yeah, I don't mind. I'm interested to try this, and the Game Boy Advance is a great little system, and I've got about 3 or 4 of them actually. Because again, when you go around car boots years ago, people just lying on tables somewhere to pick it up and look at how much you want for this old couple of quid. Oh great, and I've got a box silver one. I've got a clear blue plastic one, and I've got another one as well. A black one, I think, as well. So I've got 3 of them.
Yeah,
and I think they're absolutely great. I really do.
Corky, and because they're closed. I mean, apart from the GBA, I mean, the SP is kind of the closed screen one, clamshell, whatever you want to call it. But
yeah,
they're more likely than not. There are a few horrible exceptions you see on eBay and Facebook. The screens are typically in quite good condition.
yeah.
As long
They
as
don't
they're
tend to
left open.
If you think about something like the Game Gear ones, the Game Gear screens, you tend to find they tend to be very scratched.
Yeah,
Game Boy, not so bad, and I think you're right about Game Boy Advance. Most of the screens are in pretty good condition. But it is a great little system, and fully recommend people then get one. Get one. The only thing to watch is the cartridges, obviously, because you need to know whether you're dealing with a lot of legal cartridges. And I bought a lot on eBay. It was a good lot. I mean, for what they were, I think it was about 15 cartridges for a tenner. I think it was, and there were a couple of dodgy ones in there, which people pointed out to me. I realised they were dodgy at the time. Well, no, I didn't realise they were dodgy at the time, so I bought them, and then when I looked at them in close and actually got in my hands, I thought, oh, that's a dodgy one. That's a dodgy one.
Pokemon. I reckon I got some dubious Pokemon ones, but GBA, I was quite a collector of it. Like a few, when it came out, I got one. So I've still got my original collection, but since over the years, I've been amassing it. So I have got some more expensive titles. I've got like Ninja Cop. I've got which goes for like a silly amount now. I think it's like 150 loose, maybe. I haven't got a box one. It's just there's a loose one.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, is this real? And I think it is. I kind of did put it on a group, and I've got the those funky little Nintendo screwdrivers. So I do have a bit more of a check now. But I did go back through some of my old ones, and I think some of the Pokemon ones, I'm like, not so sure.
You doubt yourself when you look at other people talking about them, and you go, hang on a second, have I got a dodgy cartridge here or not? But that's why I tend not to buy them, because I know that if I'm buying a bundle or something, and it's not like a system I play on a great deal anyway, but this was just too good to pass up. I thought, this is all right for a tenner. But you do wonder, am I actually buying an official cartridge? I bought a couple of Game Boy games probably about 12 months ago, and they're all legit, but I was like, well, are they? And I was going on the internet, as you do, and we feel like you get an illness or something, you go on the internet, try and find out what it might be. It's exactly the same process and exactly the same thing. Oh my god, I bought loads of dodgy cartridges, because that's not right, and you have to work out what you're looking for. So you have to have a bit of a know-how about you when you're getting into something like this.
I think my fear isn't so much what I've got, as long as I haven't paid over the odds. If I'm paying out, a chunky amount of money, which would be rarely I do, then I'd do a bit of the cheesy due diligence and say, send me pictures of, whatever. And then I'd share it with the true experts, not me, to say, is this right? My fear is for the stuff which I've already got, if I was to sell it on, would it, some stuff say it would be a dud, I'd feel terrible, even though it works perfectly fine. Perhaps I don't, it's that kind of thing. But obviously I'd check if it was a more pricey game, I'd check and verify before moving it on. But GBA and not many, I probably got about 25 box GBA games, but must have about 100, loose carts, just a big rattling thing. And same with Game Boy. Again, most of my original games, and with a few exceptions, the Game Boy games on eBay, although I want to create a bit of a surge, but you can on a Tuesday night or Wednesday night, a little bit out of hours, ending now, you can get some good pickups. And I'm not opposed to spending, if it's a couple of quid or say like a $5 on a Game Boy game, including P&P, even if it's a bit of a trashy game when it turns up, still it's a risk I'm willing to take, because it could be all right. And I'm just quite fascinated by I've got loads of nostalgia for that handheld. So I've got in summary, I've got a lot of bad Game Boy games. But
if you get the postage thrown in, it makes it worth a bit more. I got that Spectrum compilation a few weeks back, £2 posted. I mean, it cost the poor guy who sold it to me nearly £3 to post it. So I paid £2 all in for it. So and again, like you said, it has to be a great game. I mean, there was about 3 or 4 really good games in this compilation, but most of them I'd never even heard of and probably wouldn't play anyway.
Yeah.
But I thought for £2 boxed with the instructions and the tapes, I'm happy with that.
Not bad, is it? Yeah. But you do get, it's the old one you get for steel, and On a lot of occasions, the seller kind of accepts it for what it is, maybe a learning on their behalf if they haven't set the right minimum price. But unfortunately, there's an increasingly amount of people that just pull the sale, and you just think, really, is that get a credit back straight away? I've had a few of them, and you just think, well, but it's what it is. You just don't deal with them, ever again. It's a bit of a midterm write-off for them, but hey ho.
That's it. That's right. Yes. Right then, on to the last game of the 6 that you're taking to Desert Island is your favourite game. I can't remember. I think we spoke about this before, and we start this program. I can't remember. That was that long ago.
It's pre-program, pre-chat,
pre-program. Yeah, this was the you did a video on this right around the time you first started. This was the very first. I think this is the first video I saw that you did, and I left a comment on that because I did check. I did leave a comment on it, and it's one of my favourite arcade games on a system I don't particularly like, but that's fine. So
that's fine. Yeah, that's an equal in terms of the system. Yeah. So and really, I don't know, the system was just the best way the best format I could find to play the game, but and it was a game that I played again here back in the day, back in the arcades down Southend Seafront. But yeah, Chase HQ. So a lovely combination of it's got that outrun drivability and chasing around with time limits, but you've also got that super bonus of the having to crash into the enemy. The siren goes on as soon as you get with that distance meter is cut right down. I think you'll then says it's 60 seconds. You've got to bash the heck out of the enemies. Seems to be always driving a Porsche or a Lamborghini or a Lotus Esprit, a British sports car. Loved it in the arcade. I did have it on the Specky, and I've got to say, I've got fond memories of the Specky version.
Spectrum version went to be probably the best. Probably might be actually the best home version of it. I think the Amstrad's pretty good as well. The Commodore 64 is an absolute turgid pile of cack. I'd avoid that at all costs. It's horrible.
All right.
I had the Amiga version, which was a bit of a letdown, to say the least. So I've played pretty much most of the conversions of it. I haven't played this particular one, but none of those games. You obviously appreciate you've got limitations, and you're not going to be able to recreate the arcade classic on the Spectrum. But they had a bloody good go at it. But a lot of these games, the conversions weren't great.
Oh, they were terrible, or they weren't. Or they were. Some of them were good, but they just weren't aligned to the arcade. So, and again, it's probably just due to processor and all that kind of stuff. Sega Master System, I love Chase HQ on the Master System, but it's not like the arcade.
No, I picked it up recently. I haven't played it yet, but I'll probably give it a whiz over Christmas, that one.
Yeah, it's worth trying. Again, it came up on the challenge recently, so I had another excuse to get stuck into it. But the one which I found that to me is the closest to the arcade is for the Sega Saturn. But it was only released in, someone may correct me, but I think it was only released in Japan. I certainly hunted around a lot for it over here, could not find it. And again, through it was a bit of a Instagram type kind of relationship. I was chatting with this person, Japanese individual that turns out they had their eBay shop. And I was like, look, I'm looking for this game. And they were so kind. They actually went away, sourced this game for me. I'm sure it's a cultural thing, but the quality of the everything about the game was just meticulous. It's like it could have been just taken off the factory line. But they came back and said, look, we've got one. There was just kind of a bit of trust in there, but it wasn't. I'm always I don't know, maybe it's the link to my job. I'm never going to do friends and family on a fairly chunky amount of money on PayPal. So we did it via eBay, but we did it like she's literally like, I'm putting it on now, and I'm like, I'm buying it now, clicking, got it. But it was a good price, including I think I got under the tax thing and all that. It was just the right amount. But yeah, the only fairly key. The only difference between this and the arcade one that jumps out to me is that when you get the instructions up front from headquarters, from HQ, it's in Japanese. So anyone that's played it's normally, this is Nancy from Chase HQ. Yeah. Ralph the Idaho Slasher is in the Porsche.
That's strange name for an Idaho Slasher. Yeah. You can be called a Slasher, you don't be called Ralph, do you? Let's be honest with you.
Absolutely awesome. So you haven't got. So instead, you got the Japanese scene set. But that aside, when you're in that car, whatever, I'm crap with cars. Is it Porsche 928, I think, or a very nice looking Porsche, and then you're off, and it's so like the arcade. It's unbelievable.
What I did after watch your video, which again, I think it was maybe about 3 minutes long. I then watched the
game. I didn't last long.
I then put the arcade version on afterwards, and it's you know, it's not perfect, but my God, it's damn close, isn't it? It's so reminiscent of it, and I'm thinking, why couldn't they have done this? You know, or but then you probably realise at the same time that the Saturn is obviously at a point in time where it should be able to replicate something like that pretty damn close to the arcade. Whereas, you know, you talk about the Spectrum version, or you know, or even the Amiga version, nowhere near close. The Amiga version just lacks speed. You know, for a game like that to work, as we were saying, you know, it's so fast, and the whole concept you're chasing a criminal down in a Porsche. There's no concept of speed on the Amiga, which is really silly because the Amiga could do driving games particularly well. The Commodore 64's got no hope because it couldn't do driving games full stop. It was just so disappointing. So when you actually saw that, I saw that on Saturn version, and I thought, wow, I never knew that existed. It's like, this is fantastic.
And it's got the sequel on it as well. So you get Special Criminal Investigation, SCI.
Yeah. I never played that. I've heard that version was much better on the home systems, and Chase HQ was on the home system, but I never actually played SCI. So
I haven't got the nostalgia for it, but it's still a pretty rocking game. But I pretty much got the Saturn just so it sounds bad, but because it was such for me, so many good memories, and playing it now, it wasn't rose tinted glasses. It's genuinely a cracking game. I sourced a Saturn. I was like, I need to get a Saturn. So I got that, and then with a bit of an adapter thing. Is it the Action Replay Plus, and then obviously this Japanese game come through. It's all was good. So it did spark me to buy. Just having a look, I've got about 20 Saturn games, but no big hitters like the Virtua Fighters. Obviously Sega Rally, which is probably, again, you're not a Saturn owner unless you've got that.
Exactly.
A few footy games. Athlete Kings is a good one. I don't know if
yes, I've got that. Yeah.
It's like a bit of a Daley Thompson-esque type.
It's like it's like Daley Thompson Decathlon on steroids. It's all a bit big and blocky and triangular, but it is good fun. I mean, I do knock the Saturn quite a bit, but there are some good games for it. I've played a few, and it just I just don't relate to a great deal, I'm afraid. But I'm not saying that there aren't some good games for it, because I've got a few, and when I've played it, it's been very enjoyable.
If you could like shooters, and obviously they command a bit of money, like the Darius games. I've got some shooters for it. Quite a few like Japanese games. But Chase HQ is my main go-to, and as I was kind of describing my setup before, the Saturn isn't plugged; it's up here, so I kind of have to swap it out with one of the other systems. But I play a lot more Dreamcast. At the moment, I love the Dreamcast.
Yeah.
Never had that back in the day. A lockdown present to myself, and I'm like, how did I miss this? The only memory I have of it was in one of the maybe Electronics Boutique, one of the gaming shops. A little flyer. No, it was Virgin Megastore. And obviously no one will be able to see this, but I'm showing Russ a little brochure that I picked up from Virgin Megastore when they released the Dreamcast. Yeah. And I was like, maybe this is a system. I should get. And I didn't at the time, but for some weird reason, I just kept hold of this leaflet.
Get the flyer,
yeah. I don't know what that's all about. But
it was a system that passed me by as well, because I mean, by that point, Sega had pretty much shot themselves in the foot so many times that they were pretty much a non-entity in the console market, sadly. But people who do like the system, and so many people have told me over the years what a good system it is, and I agree, because I've got one, and I've got some really nice games for it, and I do enjoy playing on it. Some people say it was the last system where you could probably get arcade perfect converted. Gernaldino Plays, a good friend of mine, mentions Crazy Taxi as being pretty much arcade perfect, and that's the sort of thing. There are some cracking games for it, but it's one of those again which, when it came to market, it was just too late for them. Had they done things differently, that's an old story. Had they done things differently, he wouldn't have got to that point. They probably would still be making games today. But it's a system which I think not just past you and me by, but a lot of other people as well.
Yeah, and it's regrettably, I mean, for some of the titles, again, like all these systems, they are quite, they're creeping up, and it's quite hard to find a cheap Dreamcast game, and it's impossible to find one that's got a decent case, albeit someone did provide me details of where I can get some replacement cases from, because they're just, as everyone knows, them and Saturn are just terrible cases, which
rotten, quite literally rotten.
Yeah.
I don't know whether they are, but good system that. But shame about the cases. But I like the choice of Chase HQ. I mean, it's one of my favourite arcade games, and when I saw that on the Saturn, I thought, oh yeah, that's really, really good. I'm pleased there was a good version of it eventually. So.
And even weirdly, you played it on the Game Boy. The Game Boy version's all right.
No, I've not played it. I'll have to look into that one.
It's not it's not even a dumbed down arcade port. It's a different, it's a different guy. Same principles in terms of chase down the timer, bash the enemy and all that jazz. But it plays well, and you get we're talking about that kind of sense of speed, and you get that when you hit the turbo. It's times 1.5. It's a good, not an expensive game. I might even have a spare. I can chat to you, but it's worth playing. It's good.
Yeah, if you do that, it'd be fantastic. Because I've got F1 Race on the Game Boy, and I'm amazed by the sense of speed on that as well. That's a really good game. So you mentioned if it's a good sense of speed on Chase HQ on the Game Boy, then I may be worth having a look at that. So that's good. Right, and so those are your 6 games on your list. Just to recapture those, we had School Days on the Spectrum, we had Shinobi on the Master System, Sensible Soccer on the Amiga, Street Fighter 2 on the Super Nintendo, and then just recently talked about Metroid Fusion on the GBA and Chase HQ on the Saturn. So those are the 6 games that we ask you to take with you, which will keep you company on your desert island. The other 2 games we're going to talk about now, we'll talk about your hater game right at the very end. But the one we talk about now is the second chance game. So under the very, very loose umbrella of something you may have played before and never got into, or got to a certain point you couldn't get past, or had to stop playing for a certain reason, or lost interest in, or just something that you may never have played and really want to sit down and have an opportunity to go at it, or saw somebody else play it, thought I'd really like to play that but never actually did. So this game, it's a bit of I don't know, maybe it is a bit of a controversial one, but Resident Evil, the original Resident Evil for the PlayStation. And it was a game first time I played it was back in the uni days when I was talking about we had the N64 and then people up the road, a few people had PlayStation. So maybe it was the fact that I wasn't, it's the kind of game maybe you need to be locked away in your own kind of environment, just crack on with it, as opposed to, a few mates who've just become bouncing off a blooming FIFA game, or Pro Evo or whatever, and then jumping onto, maybe it was the wrong. In reflection, maybe it's the wrong environment to try it, but I did try it. And once I got through, the intro bit, I like graphically, well, this is pretty bloody, impressive. I'm watching a mini movie. And then you're in the kind of the hallway of the mansion. And I think I came across the first zombie, looked around a bit, and I was like, I think I've had enough. You sound like Ian from the Poltergeist when he was talking about it, because he said pretty much, I think he and his friend got it. Great story on that. If you haven't heard that one, go back and listen to it. It's really, really funny the way he tells it. But they watch the introduction, they're both like, oh god, this is really like, go on, you have a go. No, you play. I don't want to play it. It's like, I
don't know why. And it's like I played before that. Do you remember? I played it on the PC, but Alone in the Dark. So not recent remake, but I think it was the original one, and it was the same kind of fixed camera view. Maybe not zombies, more kind of it's still monsters and going around. And graphically, that was far inferior, just purely because of the year it came out on. But I love that game. So, for all intents and purposes, I should have loved Resi, but I do wonder maybe it was just that environment. If it was a game that I owned on my system, and I was kind of just shut behind closed doors, sitting in a lounge, kicking back, playing it, maybe I would have adored it, and maybe it was just, like I say, the wrong time for me. So I want to give it a second go, and I had a bit of a jump as well, because I didn't play the second game up until 3 months ago.
Right.
The remake, I say the remake of the second game, which just blew my mind. But back in the day, I had this little sample of Resi, put it down. And then the next time I jumped into Resi game was Resi 4 on the GameCube, which is obviously a very different game, and it was a game that I loved. So I feel like I've given first Resi a bit of a disservice, and I should go back and play it.
That's good enough reason for doing so, and I can't argue with any of that logic there whatsoever. It crops up all the time on it. People either mention it as a game from the series, their favourite one, or in this particular slot as well. No one's put it in a hated game yet. I've been interested to come across somebody who actually hates Resident Evil. I've not come across anybody so far.
There must be someone. Must be someone out there.
There must be somebody, but I mean, Resident Evil 4, I think, is the one that crops up the most of all. But also the first one as well.
Isn't it? Yeah, it's very. Yeah. 4 is. I did enjoy 4, but that's the kind of game. It's a bit more action packed, less of that kind of detectiveness around. A little few bits of clues, but by and large, it's blasting a few zombies, conserving your ammo, moving to the next bit, and kind of repeating some bigger bosses. So I did love that, and I played the two most recent ones, and they were good. But I need to go back to the start.
Back to the start where it all began.
That's it,
yeah. Okie doke. So that's Resident Evil, which is your second choice game, and now we get to the final game, the one we all wait for, the one that everybody waits to hear what it is. And I've got to say, this is probably the most. I've got to say, 26 episodes in, this is the most obscure game to sit in this particular slot, and I'm dying to find out. Yes, it is. Honestly, I people put in here well-known games or games that people know of. I mean, I'm just going back through just some. I do make notes on these, believe it or not, Ed. I do actually write down what people are talking about. Yeah,
you're a very organised individual. I'm sure
I am. Do you think so? Okay. I mean, just going Nerdy Geezer had E.T. on the 2600. Big Game Al had Breath of the Wild. I think he was the first one to stick it in there.
The cheek of the guy.
That's it. Where are we? Oh, that UK gamer, Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door on the GameCube. Where else have we got here? I'm trying to do some writings as well.
I'd quite like to try the ET one. I don't know if ET. It's just a bit of a simple, basic game, isn't it? Not? Is it?
It's not great. It obviously it's infamous, isn't it? The ET game, absolutely infamous. I mean, it's not a great game, but when you think they had 6 weeks to make it, it's about as good as you can get for a game you had 6 weeks to make. Where we Final Fantasy VIII, Generation Pixel, Fallout. That was Rollercore. Gernaldinho picked Pit Fighter, Cooper's World, Pokemon. So we got all sorts of different games in here, so you can see what we're looking at. This one, I mean, quite frankly, if to say it comes out of left field is doing it a great disservice, because it comes out of all the left fields that have ever existed ever. So your most hated game is?
It is Joe Montana 2 for the Mega Drive.
Now, I bet nobody was expecting that. Nobody was expecting that whatsoever. So
the honest thing is, when I was thinking these up, that was probably the easiest one. It just came into my head, and I was like, "Oh, it has to be Joe Montana 2." The Resi one, I kind of struggle with. The other, I mean, there's so many great games out there. I still sit comfortably about the really good, the good games, and they'll always have a high, hold them in high regard. But Joe Montana 2, I was just like, that has to be this game. And it's the history behind it for me. It's another blooming. It's a sad Christmas tale, but Crimbo was approaching. It's like, what do you want? Well, of course, I'd like some video games. I got the Mega Drive, Mega Drive game. So maybe it was I don't know if it was my mum or dad, but someone had tasked my nan, who had done quite well with the previous Centurion purchase.
That's right. Yes. Yeah.
To buy me. It was meant to be. Is it John McFadden?
John Madden. John Madden.
Yeah. John Madden's. I know there's a few out. Whatever the year it was, the particular John Madden game for that year. So my gran had gone out. Her eyesight was never good even when she was young, but she kind of went out on the bus, went into town. God knows where she went in town, but maybe she asked for that game and they just gave her this because they were trying to get rid of it. But it was one of those. It should have been a no surprises Christmas where I knew what I was going to get, and I opened it up and I was like, "Well, this is interesting." She won't have got me 2 games, and I'll be honest, I was lucky and grateful. She just gave me 1 game. I was like, Joe Montana 2, and then on the front, I mean, it did have the spiel, and I'd like to. We had a bit of, again, as part of the preamble. This is nothing against Joe Montana, the American football player, and I have utmost respect for the individual and everything he did for the was it the 49ers?
Yes.
Phew. This is just about the game itself. And on the cover, obviously a lovely dashing picture of Joe, the man himself, in the quarterback pose. But there was something on there, as over the front or the back, about full speech, and it did have in-game commentary. And
Yes,
it was just like, and that I was just like, this is awesome. It's like, Nan, you've done really well. Unbelievable. So I think most of us, so most of my brothers, certainly my dad, when we were sitting around, we plugged this game in. I just did not get on with it in the slightest, Russ. It's just, and maybe, and I don't know. I know the basic rules of so NHL, NFL for sure. Yeah. That would have been a faux pas, wouldn't it? So I know the rules of American football, but just maybe this game just brought sophistication that would be more appreciated by people that knew the rules. But just the strategies, the amount of decisions you had to make before you even saw the playing field, before you even properly moved the person around for the split second before you got tackled, and then on to the second down, etc. And then also on the Madden games, maybe it's a subtle thing, but I had played a Madden game, and they're like vertical shooter, the vertical approach to the game. Joe was like left to right. Is it the Tecmo Bowl?
Yes, Tecmo Bowl, yeah.
Games. If it had been Tecmo Bowl with jazzed up graphics, it would have been thumbs up. I would have loved it. But the playability sucked. I could not connect a pass. The speech was, I don't know. It was so filled and so robotic. Individually, the voices sound good, but the way they'd tied them together, depending on the scenario that Joe, whoever you were playing as, was in, was just poor. And I wanted, it sounds really ungrateful, doesn't it? But I would have preferred Fadden. A few of my friends had Fadden. I played Fadden before, and I was just a bit gutted. And it was a pricey game. It must have been 50 quid or something. The speech, they probably, and God, no, my poor Nan, hopefully she wasn't ripped off for even more. Joe Montana. It's always, for me, Joe Montana.
See, I had when I got my Mega Drive, I bought Montana Sports Talk 93, which I'm not sure whether that was the first game or not. And that would, obviously, you mentioned a speech there. The whole selling point behind this was you actually had a speech in it. And it's the robotic computers, but there's nothing special about it. But it added something to the game. And I remember the first time I actually connected the pass. I didn't just connect the pass. My wide receiver got so free of the defense, he was on his own. It was impossible not to miss him. It was like an 80-yard pass. I was like, this is fantastic. This is great.
Maybe you got the skills. You got the skills for that. I didn't.
Yeah, but the thing is, if you played Madden at the same time, and you're on about choosing all these players, Madden was exactly the same thing. In fact, if anything, probably it's got too complicated now. If people go back and play, they talk about. I was very difficult about getting too into American football about this because it's one of my pet subjects. But if you watch old American football from like 30 years ago, the plays that they run are very, very simple and basic. Now it's a lot more complicated. Yeah. If you try to play the game in the Madden series now and try and play one of the early ones, again, exactly the same thing. It's very, very basic. So, there's a lot of choices on Montana too, but they were very basic compared to it. Those are the sort of things you have to expect with something like that, because it is American football's like it's a stop-start game. That's why a lot of people hate it, because a game with an hour's playing time should not take 3 hours, in some cases longer, for whatever reason.
I'd seen the Crumbs. Was one of the UK ones. Was it the Rams? Am I making out LA Rams? No, they were.
They were
Denver Broncos or Denver Broncos versus someone or other.
Yeah,
and loved it. And that stage, I was really into it. My dad was doing some crazy work, and he was in the US, and he met. We're really going a bit off tangent, but number 72, Chicago Bears, the refrigerator.
The fridge, yes, yeah.
And God knows where it is. Hopefully, it's probably up in the loft. But I've got loads of signed, fridge related stuff. So, and my mates were really into it. It was quite a hip and happening thing. Everyone was into the American football. But this. For me, I don't know, maybe just a letdown of getting a game that I wasn't expecting, and Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, it doesn't hold up. But if you put the Madden games of the year against Montana games, it doesn't really. Montana games don't really hold up at all. Yes, they've gone for that side on Tecmo Bowl look, which, as you said, if they'd probably gone for that original. And I think Madden was probably a far better game. It got the right angle. I used to play TV Sports Football on the Amiga, which is again even more basic than the Montana games. But even that was like vertical up and down. And I remember years and years and years before previously playing on-field football on the Commodore 64, which was really sort of stripped down version. But again, that was vertical. The only other game I played which was side on was 4th and inches. Which was quite an interest. But no one's ever tried to do a side on American football game apart from Montana. I think everything is
like an arcade one. Maybe it's really, and I've never been able to find out what game it is. But one of my early arcade memories was random. It was having swimming lessons, and in the cafe they had an arcade machine which they'd rotate. And the game I do remember was POW, Prisoners of War. Awesome game. But then one week I came back, and my mum was always going to be 20p or whatever after I'd done the swim. And I was like, oh, POW isn't here. I'm sure it was a American football game. I thought it was side on, but we are talking my age pretty much. That's how long ago it was, about 40 years ago.
There was one. It
was brilliant. It was really good.
Yeah. I mean, the Madden games are side on now anyway. If you've ever seen a modern Madden game, they're actually played from the side rather than behind the.
Okay.
Well, I don't know I've not played a Madden game in years, but whether it's an option now. But it now looks more like it does on the telly, as opposed to up and down on it. But I've never played Montana 2. I mean, like I said, Montana 1 wasn't all that great. Apart from the big catch about it was the sports talk. The commentary on it. Apart from that, there was nothing else really to sell it. So, but it's just a random game. It's a completely random game to put in this slot, but you have a story behind it, which is the whole purpose of why people come on.
The Marshmallow Man, Ghostbusters. It just came into my first thing. It came into my head, and I couldn't think of another one that I wanted to put in that category. The games aren't very good, but just there's a anti-nostalgia with that one. Something, whatever the word is.
I mean, my mum did a similar thing. I gave her a list of stuff I wanted for Christmas the one year. And Family Guy just started, and I'd watched the first series on Sky, and it was being released on DVD. And I said, "Oh, Family Guy and DVD, please." And she went, "Okay." So then on Christmas Day, I'm sitting there opening my presents up, and I was like, "Oh, this DVD piles here, okay." Open that one up, okay. Because she usually pretty much got everything that I asked her for. If she could, 9 times, not say not, pretty much everything that. Wasn't greedy or anything like that, but usually she came through. So I was like, oh, great. And I opened it up. I thought, this must be Family Guy. So I opened it up, and it was The Family Man, which is the Nicolas Cage film based around Christmas. So I was like, what's this? And she went, you asked for that? I said, no, I didn't. I said, that's for Family Guy. She said, well, I went into HMV and asked them for this, and that's what they told me. So perhaps they did the same thing to my mum that they did to your nan. And just sold them a load of stuff. The daft thing is now The Family Man, because I've had that on DVD since. I've had that DVD since 2001, I think it was.
I remember getting it around that time. Yeah,
it was a year before my mum died, and we've still got that DVD to this day. And now actually, it's become a staple of our Christmas watching.
Yeah, I just thought it was an all right film. It's not too.
There's nothing wrong with it.
Sentiment for you, but it's quite a good film. But it's certainly not Family Guy. I watched the first few seasons, and it was so different from anything else, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
And just Brian and fantastic, and the amount of obviously it's all about film references and other
pop
media
culture
references.
And stuff.
It's so I'd actually like to go back and watch some of those. They're really good. But
again, like The Simpsons, like the early episodes of The Simpsons, they're a bit hard to watch though because the animation's not quite spot on, and some of the characterizations are not quite as they were later on. Watching early Stu is a bit different. The way he's the ethos of the character is still there, but the whole killing everybody type thing that he starts off with gets faded out and becomes a bit more of a mainstream character. But yeah, it's a good watch. But again, the animation's a little bit off in some cases. Anyway, that's a tangent to finish on. There we go. So we've actually done your journey. There we go. All done and dusted. So how was that for you?
Really, it brought back a lot of memory, just going through the whole preparation and thinking through the the consoles, the games. Yeah, it's been amazing. I think it has added probably a few more games that maybe I do need to get back into the collection. So I mean, you probably cost me a bit of money here, Russ.
I usually do. I usually people say thanks for that. I've just remembered I need that now, and I haven't got that, and I need to play that again.
And the recommendations you've come up with, so that's going to probably cost me a bit more. But no, I have had a wonderful time, and it's been a pleasure chatting with you. So again, thanks for having me on. It's been awesome.
No, it's been an absolute delight. I've really enjoyed listening to that again. And one of the great things I get about this, and I know people do that listen as well, is although we see each other on YouTube, this is part. I think were we on Swap Shop once or something like that, or have we not?
We were. I think this is the first. No. Yeah, so email. Comments, engagement, but not proper chat. Yeah. So finally,
we swapped emails, we swapped the odd WhatsApp message and things, and that's it so far. So this is our first, like a lot of these things are first sit down with somebody to talk to them and get to know them. So I'm getting to know you as everybody else is, and I hope they've listened to it and enjoyed it as much as I have, which has been great. You've been a fantastic guest. I've really enjoyed listening to some of that stuff as well. And a great choice of games. As I mentioned right at the very, very start, if you haven't come across Ed's channel before, I'll stick a link in the description below. Do go across and have a look. Obviously, listening to that gaming history and that gaming list, there's a real mixture on there and some great systems and some great stories told. And you can tell he's a really nice guy. So go and show him some support. That'd be really good if you can do that. Because I like people to, go across and check other people's channels out after listening to this. And I know from history so far in this series that some people have come across channels for the first time, listened to this and gone across and subscribed and followed. So that's really, really good. As I mentioned, this is the penultimate episode. We have one more episode left, which is the Christmas special, which is going out on Saturday, the 18th of December. We've got a special guest lined up for that. So we'll talk to you then. In the meantime, if you have enjoyed this, don't forget the other 25 episodes are in the archives on my channel. Please go across and have a listen to those. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and tick the bell for notification videos. In the meantime, once again, thank you very much indeed, Ed, for coming on. I really do appreciate it, mate.
Pleasure. Thank you, Russ.
All right. And this is the Retro Bear saying we will talk to you again very, very soon. But until then, do take care and bye for now.